end that game. And it's super frustrating for their lineup to play against the Winter Wyvern. I think Chuan single-handedly extended the game by like 40 minutes, 50 minutes maybe, by just simply Cold Embrace countered the Dire lineup so well, even though Witch Doctor's Death Ward couldn't cut through the Cold Embrace, right? So he played a phenomenal game on the Wyvern, and they still managed to overcome it. It's in a lot of situations like that where you feel like every single fight we just want to engage and kill someone. He's counterplaying us every time. You know, at some point you just lose patience, right? But they seemed very professional about it. Very like they had the goal in mind. They knew how to get there, and it took a while, but they did it ultimately. That's a caliber team that manages to do that.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a quick replay of, just in case anyone missed it, the last moments of the game. We continue talking about this matchup between Fnatic and IG, but of course,
I would just look like that was another day at work.
A couple of crucial fights that they lost, they had to actually clump up, and I really like the way they approach it. They approach with 4 on bottom, 1 on the top, and KYXY pretty much just sacrifices his life to try and damage the gyro. But the gyro is not actually that strong without the Winter Wyvern there to back him up, and he has to expend a fair amount of cooldowns to burn through KYXY, and they actually have to bring the Bloodseeker over. And as Winter was talking about, Mushi goes in and dies. I like the pickup of the Lincolns to try and block the curse, and then he dies. He
brings Christmas presents over.
This was pretty great.
But the supports had such huge impact in a lot of the fights with the freezing field, with the Death Ward. It was simply incredible their damage output.
Yeah, we'll see that sick Death Ward here at the end too, right? Just going into the trees.
And Wraith King actually, I think BOT said a mid lane. He's trying to push that out to secure the final racks. But I mean, look at the positioning. The blink.
Oh man.
Yeah, it channels, I think, for full duration. And yeah, there's BKB heroes that does nothing. You can only Cold Embrace one person, and everyone just gets wrecked by that. And of course, everyone has their buyback, so they have to do round 2.
Of course.
Wraith King already has his ultimate, and this shows you how long the fight
Wraith King has 4 rounds probably.
Yeah.
3-4 rounds.
Yeah.
he had a refresher.
So it was going on for quite some time. I mean, yeah, we see chases all the way back out the base and then back into the base. And like you mentioned, Syndrome, of course, IG doing their best to try to keep this going.
But Bloodseeker is just, he's not the best 6-slot hero, and he's really terrible at manning up versus the picks that Fnatic had. And I don't think they expected it to go this late, but they were comfortable with it when late. It's like, okay, if it goes to 6, like, I mean, Bloodseeker cannot cast Blood Rage on himself and risk getting crit by the TA.
And we're gonna see Mushir going.
He's gonna die around here, right? He's gonna die here and bring his rapier.
Yeah, he was ruptured. He just kept running around.
Yeah, he's like he doesn't even care because he knows what the plan is now.
He dies. Okay, he brings his rapiers here.
There we go. You see the item swapping out. Pretty good.
I mean, it's a good plan. You know? In the middle of a fight, no one's gonna click on you, and oh, that guy actually has 2 rapiers.
I mean, does rapier actually increase his damage by that much at that point? I mean, when you have like Daedalus.
I mean, if you get a crit, you one-shot the support.
He didn't even crit there, I think, in the end. If you got a crit there, you would have seen it.
I mean, Witch Doctor was already channeling as well with BKB, so
right.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, the game was pretty much secured, but he had that backup plan where.
I mean, it's just the plan, you know. He had that in at the back of his mind in a game like this. It's just really cool to see.
Right on. And we also, I mean, that game, the last moments were pretty exciting, but there is a bit of a surprise update for those of you who aren't able to follow all the different streams. We already had EG playing their first match at TI5 on Stream C. They were playing up against Newbie, and Newbie took game 1-0. So we have the final moments there. We'll be able to check that out and get a better picture here between these two teams.
And EG gave away a first pick Lesh, getting Queen of Pain in return.
And Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's dubious giving Leshrac away, I think, in almost any circumstance. And it didn't really seem like they were very well equipped to deal with that, on top of the Storm Spirit. And they had 3 Invis heroes. A lot of teams don't even like picking 2. But, I mean, it was a Newbie performance.
It's pretty interesting because one of the strengths that we have talked about a lot for EG is that we feel like PPD is an incredibly good drafter and captain and never gets outpicked. To me, he has like that one rare off game, like say every 20th game or something, where the draft just, you know, he has a plan and then it gets thwarted, or he overthinks things and just ends up with something bad. I feel like this, personally for me, this is an outpick. Like, pretty clearly Newbie have tons of ways of fighting. EGs they have like a very specific way things need to happen for it to be favorable for them, and Newbie just took full advantage of it.
I think even more so than the wildcard teams, like Newbie have nothing to lose because they already won a TI. They're
Yeah.
just like, we're just here to see what happens.
It's a yeah. You bring you bring up a good point. I
Thanks
mean,
for the invite, guys. We'll just hang out and crush EG for fun.
yeah, not
Yeah,
that
no pressure.
not that they're taking it lightly, but yeah, they first of all they did win TI once. Of course, in some senses they are defending champions, but at the same time, as we've been going around and just listening in, it sounds like the general attitude is they don't look at themselves as a favorite. So in that case, sure, we're defending champions, but we have nothing to lose. A lot of people aren't actually in the community aren't expecting Newbie to do that well either. So they probably were a lot more relaxed going in against EG, who are definitely one of the favorites, at least in terms of the community. So EG playing against the defending champions of TI. Of course, EG has had a great performance earlier in the year at DAC. They won first place there, and that was when Sumail really shined, right? Sumail coming up as kind of that prodigy, one of the youngest players now coming back as a superstar in EG. And we have a closer look at Sumail and his story leading up to TI5.
When I first met Sumail, I knew this kid was going to be big.
Sumail and me started playing Dota when I was 15 and he was 8. He had this passion. For Sumail, all that mattered was being the best.
His desire to compete at the highest level, his will to be a professional, that was the most prominent thing that I got from him. So when a spot opened up on Able Geniuses, Sumail was the first person that we thought of.
At first, Sumail's parents were very skeptical about esports, but even though it was a very scary decision, his parents really believed in him.
I lived in Pakistan for 15 years, and growing up, I wanted to play so bad that I sold my bicycle just to play for more hours.
We had no car, so I bought a small pit bike. It was only meant for one person, but we got like 4 persons on it, and we rode all the way to the gaming zone. We just started playing the whole day. Pakistan doesn't have much resources to fulfill the needs of gaming, and to play the game, it's very easy over here.
My dad worked really hard to get me and my family here. I live with 8 family members in a small apartment, and I share my room with 3 family members.
It's really mesmerizing for all of us. And he's been playing so fast, never tired, never get bored.
I play about 9 hours a day. It needs a lot of hard work and dedication, and in Dota, there's always something new, so you just can't stop.
Sumail's entire life revolves around Dota. Aside from school and his family, this is pretty much his life. This is what he's been doing since he's been 6. I think he's established himself quickly as one of the most skilled mid players in the game. But I think what's going to be really important for him as he develops is how he interacts with his teammates.
I have a lot of room to improve, and Fair is like the most experienced player. So I've learned a lot from him, and I think he's like one of the main reasons I'm here now. At Summit 3, I thought I was the only reason our team lost because I just played so poorly. Fair helped me learn just to trust your teammates. He told me that the good players learn from their mistake and not get upset. Instead, they practice out, and that's how you become the best.
Sumail's definitely a confident player. He came in at 15 years old and somehow managed to win the biggest prize pool outside of the international. And a lot of that had to do with his confidence in himself. If he didn't have that, under all of that pressure, I think most players would have just crumbled.
All this fame, all this money, all this glory, it didn't change him. That's the best part of who he is.
He's really ambitious. He always been saying to his mom and dad, let me do this, and one day I'll make you all proud of me. And he's doing it. He's on his right path.
I'm excited about everything in my future, but I'm possibly more excited than anything else about winning TI5. TI5 is everything. You win this, you win everything.
So yeah, TI5 is everything. You win this, you win everything. Pretty accurate description, of course. I mean, sure, there are a lot of other tournaments that are important that people remember, but at the end of the day, everyone always talks about who's going to go to TI, who's going to win TI, who's defending TI as a champion. That's been the title, and I mean, Sumail, this kid, really, a kid, right? And coming in, huge spotlight on him, and he says he felt that pressure a little bit, of course, talks about how he was a little bit too hard on himself maybe, but now, of course, his teammates, especially Fear, bringing him in and saying, hey, listen, the best players will learn from their mistakes, and they go on, and Sumail looks like he's been on that path, coming back in, being a little bit more steady. What do you guys think about Sumail and EG, just overall Sumail's part in EG? Like, how crucial is he to that team?
Well, EG has been one of the teams that have benefited the most from just, like we've talked about it previously, having like the match of young talented player and old experienced, like a steady player, like Fear, right? And Sumail, I think when he joined the team, the way they started drafting was that they started giving him a lot of space. They tried to really incorporate him in the team and really set up so that he could play under the best conditions so that he could shine, because they knew he had the talent, but they needed to make sure that, you know, if you take a player like that, like you said, and put him in a pressure situation with like minimal support, say, from and you just leave him on his own, it can of course be really dangerous. But I think they as a team, they incorporated him very well into the EG model of how they wanted to run their team, and it's been super successful.
Yeah, and of course, just now, sure, they lost one game to Newbie, but for those of you, I mean, if you are interested, first of all, if you've been following Dota 2 for a little bit, you definitely have heard of EG, and let alone Sumail. But if not, if you're newer still after watching that, definitely go over, feel free to check out our third stream. That's where they'll be playing Game 2 versus Newbie, see if they can tie it up at least, start with a point. And on that note, those two teams are in Group B, and that group started earlier with Newbie versus VP. So we'll take a quick look at the standings here, of course, now wrapping up Group A for the day. So day one, Group A, we're done with it. Even here, we will be moving on to Group B. We've had now a couple matches for Group A. Maybe we can get a little bit of a feel for where teams stand and exactly how much harder maybe Group A is compared to Group B as it comes up here. But LGD going strong, as we mentioned earlier. They finished 2-0, so 6 points. Secret and Complexity, 4 and 3 points each. And then we do have Navi Fnatic with the ties, and then MVP, Cloud9, IG, all with only 1 point each. So no team ending the day with a 0-2 record. So that's a pretty good sign for things to come. Things do seem to be pretty even on the side of Group B. Again, only one match between Newbie and VP. They tied 1-1. So we'll be finishing that group up in the later half of the day, see how the points pan out. On Group A, so far, of course, we've only had certain matchups. We haven't had all the teams playing a round robin. Anything surprise you guys, Ben, or is it just so far kind of what you'd expect?
Pretty much what I'd expect. I don't think there's too many surprises. MVP, I think, taking a game off Navi, I think Winter and I were actually pretty surprised about. I mean, Navi dominated them game number 2, but in game one they struggled.
Yeah, MVP Phoenix definitely gave them a run for their money, and I think a lot of people weren't expecting that particularly. I mean, sure, we talk about Secret losing a game to Fnatic. Maybe that's a little surprising to some people. But MVP Phoenix, the fact that they're still here to put up a fight after the wildcard play-ins, and after they struggled a little bit in the wildcard play-ins to secure that second spot, that would be something to keep an eye on. Now, for Group B, for us, this is the moment Syndrome's maybe been waiting for all day. We are going to watch 2 Team Empire games in a row. How excited are you about that?
I'm really excited because I think relative to like the general expectation, it seems to be like across the panel and across the world. I think I'm expecting more of Empire than most are, and I'm just really curious to see them play, as well as of course Vici Gaming. Oh, this is not good.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get you some water.
All right, I think I'm good. So, yeah, the Empire versus Vici is going to be really interesting to see because, yeah, those are 2 teams I expect a lot from, and I'm just curious to see if they get off on the right foot.
All right, Winter, what about you? I mean, as Syndrome was just mentioning, Empire, it does seem like there's a bit of a split in expectations. A lot of people they kept mentioning like Empire has a lot of potential. They were sad that maybe they didn't make it to the qualifiers at ESL1. They are here at TI5. Some people still have hopes, but is it too early to tell? What are your thoughts on Team Empire?
I think they have a lot of potential as a team. They are young and a lot of ambition. They play very aggressively. It's very suitable in the current patch, but in the match versus VG, I'm actually more interested to see which VG Gaming actually show up, you know, because they're not on a very good run, and they have very high expectations on their back. And from what I heard from someone like a reliable source, that they're actually reverting back the drafting position towards FY, because recently, I mean, for the past month or so, Hao has been drafting after joining the team, and there were mixed results, and obviously they weren't really too happy about it. And for this event, FY is drafting again for the team, so I'm very interested to find out how is the form of the team in general.
Yeah, I mean, we should note, of course, Vici Gaming last TI was looking pretty strong, going for the run all the way, then got stopped by Newbie in the finals and just had to rest at second place. coming in, do you think most people, Ben, can have that same high expectation that they have a very good chance of making it all the way to the finals, or do we have to wait through the group stages to find out again which Vici is here?
I chatted with Ice, and I was like, I don't know whether to place you guys like 3rd through 8th or anywhere from 3rd through 8th. He's like, I don't know either. so I was like, well,
That means he's not confident he's top 2.
That's usually a
No,
bad
there
sign,
you go.
because he usually says something like, "We are probably top 2 or 4." We're probably like
Oh,
he's usually
okay.
very confident.
Right. So a little bit of a maybe different attitude coming in. But at the same time, I mean, this TI5, a lot of people, I think, we're already noticing a lot of expectations perhaps not being that accurate. Teams are still figuring things out. Of course, the patch playing a big role in that. People are still talking about how different is this patch starting from 6.83 coming into 6.84. And as we look at the lineup here for Vici Gaming. So these two teams playing their first game, I believe, of TI5 coming in here on day 1. Empire versus Vici. Do you guys have any strong predictions about this in terms of matchup?
50-50.
50-50?
I
or
have
down the line?
absolutely no idea. I think both teams will be strong. So yeah, with that in mind, it's going to be a draw, I guess.
I think Vici has more potential, but Empire has proven to be, I think, way stronger in the past 3 or 4 months.
Okay, what about you, Winter?
I think it's 50-50. Anyone can take it. It's very hard to say because it's the first series that each of the teams are playing. We haven't seen anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 1-1, I feel it's more than likely will happen. Like maybe someone will surprise someone, the opponent with something that's new, or they need some time to get into the zone, you know.
That's true. Obviously, again, both teams playing their very first match. So in some ways, they're starting on even ground. No one's had kind of more warm-up time than the other in this one for Group B. Also, let's talk about kind of team styles before we go into the draft so that we have more time to analyze the draft itself once we start. Is there anything we want to look out for, very specific in terms of, well, this team so far has tended to prefer certain heroes. I mean, obviously, we've discussed other ones in the past. Are there any repeats carrying on over from the other teams we saw earlier, like Undying?
Wisp. I think. That's not really a repeat, but
Well,
this
right,
is,
yeah,
this is going to be a hotly contested hero, I think. Vici Gaming is one of the only Chinese teams that actually prioritizes drafting the IO in a lot of games. And Empire definitely are not strangers to playing IO either. So I would expect it to be picked or banned in both games. I don't know which phase it's going to be, but
I mean, that's...
I personally think it's been underpicked this tournament so far. It's been a short tournament, right? So it can still happen, but
Yeah, I mean, but we've been surprised generally, even in the
It's not really fair to say that though, because I feel like the teams that actually play better on Wisp haven't really started to play. So
Cloud9 didn't play it yet. 2 series.
yeah, that's the only team that comes to my mind. The
Because
rest of the teams, that,
MMY plays it for LGD.
yeah, they did have it like 1 game, didn't they?
Did LGD have it today?
I actually can't remember.
I mean, we've
remember-
only watched, one of their matches here, and then the other ones I can't remember off the top of
Yeah.
my head.
I mean,
Okay.
they are not a team that would snatch like Wisp like all the time though. So
No, it's
Yeah.
true.
yeah.
But as you were mentioning,
Maybe
Team
it's
Empire on screen as they're getting ready, warming up a little bit for the first match. They aren't strangers. Vici on the other hand, one of the few Chinese teams to bring that out. In that sense, and you bring up a good point, because sure, you say that, all right, it's been a short tournament, maybe it's not fair to say that, but we have been thrown off by a lot of the other common picks, like Undying maybe showing up a little bit more than we expected, Ember for sure being in that group. Winter, what about you? Do you think there's any heroes maybe we want to keep an eye on as we go into the draft phase?
I think Bristleback is actually still really good in this current meta and hasn't been picked that much. And I feel that he doesn't really need the IO too much as well. Like he can still function very well alone. Like obviously with IO he doesn't have to worry about mana so much, but I still think it's a really good and strong pick at the current meta.
Yeah, I think several teams have been dissuaded because of Silver Edge being a really good counter to him. But yeah, he's definitely been underutilized. I think Sand King's also really important for probably Empire a little bit more so than Vici. But at the same time, I think Empire's like teamwork is really, really good. I think they can actually play versus a Wisp. I don't think they will ban it at all, or they might utilize Winter Wyvern.
Yeah, that's what the Russian teams usually do.
yeah.
They just give away
They don't.
the
I don't
IO
really
and
think
they
they
just
mind.
pick Wyvern in return, by the way.
But still,
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of opportunities in drafts in general where you can like pick, say, you can pick Wisp as the second pick of the
Right.
the last pick of the first phase, and then you just
And
ban
then
out
ban.
Wyvern.
Right, it also depends on
So-
who gets to pick first.
Yes.
So when you say contention, obviously we're working around those mind games. Like who picks first, we'll take a look at that and hey, do they want to pick it, ban it? Do they save it for the second?
I think the other hero is Tusker. Both of the teams play a very good Tusker.
Yes, that is true.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, General, of course, has been a pretty strong hero
Yeah.
coming into TI5. All right, well, now we know a little bit on what to expect from Empire and Vici. Both teams having a little bit more time to prepare as they, again, it's just their first match coming in. Overall, though, TI5, so far, I mean, it seems like in the community, everyone's pretty excited. Obviously, we've had some exciting games. We've had base races starting with wildcard play-ins coming in. We've had quite a few highlights. Hero pool seems pretty diverse. We were talking earlier, actually, about the item pool, too, right? Almost every single item has been used. The caster was talking about it, too. How many left that haven't been used?
What was it? We got 2. We had Rod of Atos, E-Blade, Silver Edge. We couldn't remember seeing Silver Edge, which is weird because there's been like 2 or 3 Bristle games, but I think it didn't get picked up.
Yeah,
right. I mean, of course, we haven't watched every game like every minute, but as far as we can remember.
There was 1 more, I think.
But maximum, what, 4?
I guess we technically haven't had Dagon 5 either. We've had Dagon, but not
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we can count that if we want to. But yeah, not many. I mean, so we've had a lot of
I guess that's pretty much it.
adaptation. I mean, of course, part of that comes from the diverse hero pool, I guess, but
A lot more rapiers than I expected.
yeah, that is
you know
true.
what? Thanks to Cloud9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cloud9 for sure, but the Mushibang 2, and then using both of them, even if it's only for 10 seconds, that was pretty awesome to watch.
The average game time has definitely been longer than I expected so far. Like, we've had so many long games that makes for a pretty
Yeah, I mean,
high average.
so the past one was the longest one we've had so far, and I believe now IG is
4
in,
1-hour games today. Is that right?
Well, yeah, 4 that have been over 1 hour. As far as we can tell. Maybe more on stream. I don't think so though, because the other streams are generally over before we are. So I think we can safely assume that it's only been 4. But I wanted to bring up the point that IG has been in the top 3 longest games of TI. Now separately, just looking at TI history. So if we look at IG versus Cloud9, TI5, we could be looking at a record setter for sure.
Hopefully not.
Are you excited? I'm stoked.
200 plus minute games are a little bit too long for me, I think.
Yeah, 200 plus. What about like 120 plus, over 2 hours? How's that?
What's the TI record actually? It's definitely
I was
over
looking
100. But I
was
can't
looking
remember
at
if
it earlier.
I think it was last year.
Yeah.
I think I remember there was one.
I thought it was TI3.
TI3, yeah.
it's
The
TI3.
longest TI game was
Was it the game
TI3.
where with DK versus another
It
team?
was
It was
DK. It was
IG,
DK because
yeah.
it was with
DK
burning.
IG.
It was with burning in that game, and it was
10
really
slot
long.
lone druid.
It almost actually got to the dream where you actually have 12 slots on Lone Druid. It was
Ooh.
really close to that.
Yeah, that's a goal to look forward to. This
Yeah,
time.
we used to talk about it. Okay, they have Lone Druid. In case the game goes long enough, you have 12 slots.
All right,
so-
let's not give the players any ideas, right? Like trying to set their own little records. Like I had the 12 slot lone druid. But yeah, so far, I mean, we keep mentioning it, but less than even day 1. Sure, if we count wild card play-ins, a day and a half, but already just wide diverse play in terms of action, whether it's different styles, different heroes. So that's been pretty exciting. I mean, obviously for you guys have been at multiple TIs by now. How does it compare so far just from the kickstart?
That's a pretty broad question.
Yeah, I mean, but in terms of the gameplay, right? Not what kind of food you've been eating or how much sleep you've been getting.
I mean, the
Center.
hero diversity is definitely something that's improved a lot. It used to be maybe around 20, 30 heroes, maybe 40. I mean, back at TI2,
Yeah.
it's around there. And right now, it's mostly, I think, almost every hero close to every hero, you can actually try. I mean, it's legit to pick the hero if you have a right strategy behind it. So, like, we have come to the day where Takis is,
Like, that's true.
So
as
the
terrible as
sad
that might
day.
be for some people.
I actually expected a lot more like heavy committed pushing strategies with like Dragon Knight, maybe the occasional Pugna, even Chen like now and then, but that's been way
Yeah.
less than I expected. And a lot more, maybe because it's a lot more Gyrocopter has been picked than I
think
expected.
a lot
but-
of prioritization has gone into fighting. Like that's why Bounty Hunter has been in contention of first pick and first phase ban as well in a lot of the games. But teams are worried that in case we get into a lot of skirmish, a lot of fighting, we don't want to fight against Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. And actually, we're seeing the picks right now for Stream 2. That's MVP Hot 6 versus CDEC. They're just going into their very first game.
Pugna.
And
Oh.
yeah, Pugna's right there. Disruptor, we saw that yesterday, but haven't seen it today, I don't think. And then the Phoenix coming out too for CDEC. So a couple more heroes to add to the list. And again, if you want to check that out, if those are maybe matchups that interest you, or if you're just interested in CDEC versus MVP Hot 6, definitely go over to Stream 2. Right now, we are waiting for Empire versus Vici here on Stream 1. And then EG, of course, playing their second game against Newbie on Stream 3. So many streams, so many matches.
Newbies
Pretty
won
exciting.
2 games out of 3 so far. That is very surprising.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
They went 1-1 versus Virtus Pro, And the second game was actually a pretty convincing win by Newbie, and then they dominated EG in the first game.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, let's mention that, right? It was.
Yeah.
It's not just that they beat EG in game one, but the style they won in was very convincing. It was like most people are expecting, okay, maybe Newbie not going to be that strong this TI. We're looking at the picks here going into their game two, it looks like, against EG, but Newbie just dominated EG in game one. What are we looking at here for game two? Are we seeing any changes for EG going up against Newbie?
Looks like EG are just trying to give away Lesh and beat it. They're doing it again.
Right.
And they're picking their Clinks again.
Yeah,
So maybe
Clinks-
that's their like go-to hero for
Klinks
countering Lesh.
is
They have a
going-
more well-rounded.
They have Klinks again against Lash. And they have a lot of bursts with their heroes to kill Lash. I mean, maybe they have a plan.
It's definitely a
Okay.
more well-rounded lineup for EG than
Yeah,
last.
it's
Then
much
in
better than
game
the
one.
previous game where, like Ben mentioned, you try not to have too many heroes that use Invis in a same team, you know?
No, if you're a different team though, like watching EG's games and you realize, okay, EG's whether they're trying to or they've practiced a lot giving Lesh out and they're trying to make this a thing for TI5. Are you really worried about that? And like, are you gonna get scared? Because in my head, right, if you're a strategist, you're EG, you're like the only reason you would do that is to later mind game them and maybe get Lesh yourself.
I think he's just underestimated Newbie. I remember like last year he showed that he had like a full game plan versus DK, and they ended up beating DK, and DK were favorites to go at least I would say top 2
Right.
TI. So I think that he does his homework. It's very clear that PPD knows almost every matchup that he's up against and has studied for multiple hours and multiple replays. But versus Newbie, they don't have any games in the past couple months. And on top of that, no one actually viewed them as even a remote threat.
Right.
So I think he's just like, whatever, we'll give them less. They probably, aren't like, we don't know how much they practice with. I mean, how many teams are actually really versed with Leshrac because he's almost banned
All the time.
So I think it's just a little bit underestimating them. It's not a good way to start off your first match. But EG also has typical like poor group stage day one. It's a curse.
Yeah,
for
well,
EG.
those things are real, right? You have these habits for whatever reason, whether it's because of just your attitude or maybe just people getting used to the environment whenever they come to big tournaments on day one. Yeah, those things are definitely true. Some people just perform better in group stages. We've talked about that before. But now it looks like Empire versus Vici Gaming is ready. So again, I mean, if you want to find out if EG can make that work in game two, and hey, if they win that time, right, a lot of what we talked about maybe is going to change a little bit. So head over to stream 3 for EG versus Newbie. On stream 2, it will be CDEC versus MVP Hot 6 in their first game of the best of 2. And here we're about to go into game 1 of Empire versus Vici Gaming. Empire, their first game here at TI5, and same with Vici Gaming. So this is a pretty important start for both teams. Also in Group B, we haven't had many matches yet, so we just saw what happened in Group A, right? LGD goes 2-0 on day one. They're already in the lead. They're feeling pretty good. They simply need to 2-0 two other teams. Not that that's easy. Easier said than done. But if they do that, they're feeling solid going into the main stage.
I think if they get one more 2-0, they're almost guaranteed top 4. If
Top
not
4,
100%
yes.
guaranteed for top 4. Which is
yeah, we
great.
haven't
That's a
run the
winner
math,
bracket
but-
start. That's the number one step for every team is to
Yeah.
start in the winner bracket. And that's why, for me, this matchup is really important as well, because it's a huge difference for these two teams in this particular matchup, whether they get a draw or a 2-0. Not because it's not important in other matchups. When it's two top teams that meet each other, getting a 2-0 gets you a really big head start and get in closing in on that top 4.
That is true.
So I would definitely say this is the kind of game where you don't start off easy in the group stage. You're playing a juggernaut. You bring your best.
For some reason, I agree with Winter that I think it's going to be a 2-0 one way or the other. I think it's like 50-50 going in, but I think that one of these teams is like probably considerably stronger than the other, but I just don't know which. And it's, I for some reason, I don't think it's going to be a split.
Okay, what about you, Winter? I mean, you look like you're kind of doubting yourself now that Ben's agreeing with you. It's a scary thing, I know.
It is.
Well, I still think it's very difficult to say because we do a lot of predictions based on what we see, and right now we have zero material. So
What do you think?
Fair point. Me? Well, to be very fair, I actually think we're going to see a 2-0.
You think it's 2-0?
One way or the
All right,
other.
I'm definitely sticking with 1-1.
he has that cheeky green hand. He's like,
I should have said 1-1
Will?
just to make him say
what do you think, Will?
I just have.
Was that too obvious?
I mean, just given what I've reviewed and listening to you guys just talk right now, it actually does sound a lot more than anything that whichever team wins the first game, like they're just going to feel a lot better. They're going to have more confidence in their drafting even going into game 2. And we haven't really seen that so far, right? Because we've focused a lot on how do you adapt, and we've seen teams trying to do that. But I feel like in this matchup, whoever wins is just going to go in even more confidently into the draft and game 2. So we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I can't wait till it's
I think it's
2-0
more up to
somewhere.
Vici. Like Vici could be really good or just flop.
I mean, to be fair, you were the only one out of all of us who predicted the exact outcome of the wild card.
That
so
is
you
true.
kind of
C-Deck and then MVP Phoenix.
you have the foresight.
MVP my boys.
I should actually I should actually trust in your
Blind
judgment.
faith.
right? Newbie luck. That's where I
You actually can't resist. You just have to do it.
All right. Well, Empire versus Vici. They're all wrapping up. The players look pretty happy and ready to get into games. So I'm sure just going through a couple last-minute checks, making sure they have all of their stuff set up. Looks like the refs are double-checking before we jump into the draft. And Vici looks a little bit more solemn. Empire looks pretty happy and just excited to get into game. I mean, of course, these guys at this point here, we're at what, a little past 6 p.m. on Pacific time in Seattle. So they've been up for a little bit. Even if you wake up later for your matches, you've had a couple meals for sure. And you've been most likely watching the other games. Yeah, I saw Empire actually watching a couple of the last matches, getting ready for their games. So I'm sure they're pretty eager to get their first showing on TI5, show their fans what they've prepared for this next 2 weeks.
We were here a few days before the event, and of most of the teams, I don't think I saw like any of these 10 players aside from Ice. And a lot of the teams I saw like, running around here and there. So I assumed they were just like practicing nonstop for the past few days.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to our makeup artists, and of course, like they don't know the players that well, so they're talking to them. Oh, like how's the event so far? Like how's your preparation? And one of them was telling me they were very impressed because they were like, hey, so have you had a chance to meet any of your other friends, or how are you liking Seattle? And they're like, I've literally been in my room, like in our practice room, practicing, and then just coming out for meals, and then practicing, and then going back to my hotel room to sleep. So yeah, I mean, this is what it means. I mean, we heard Sumail, we heard No Tail talk about it, we've heard other players talk about it so far, saying TI is where it matters. You can win all the other tournaments, but at the end of each year, what do people remember? Oh, TI, what a great event, and who the winner was, right? The greatest games, or even if it's not the most exciting games, people will always remember the finals because that's where you deem the champion of that year. Coming in 2015, who's going to be the Dota 2 champion, the best team in the world, and you can't forget the massive prize pool, of course. So a lot on the line, and it all starts today in day one with the group stages. The best of two, the point system, it's going to matter a lot, and we are finally in the drafting phase for Empire versus Vici Gaming. So we've talked a lot about it so far. We'll find out if anything we talked about really pans out, or if we're all going to be surprised. And usually that's a pleasant surprise for sure if people bring out some pocket picks.
It always surprises me when you go into a draft like this. You have prepared for this match. Okay, they're just using, maybe it's a team mentality thing that they use all their time before extra time.
Right.
Because I was like, you go into this matchup, you thought about it all day, you know you're playing, you probably know what pick order there is. How can you possibly need extra time on your first ban? And they actually just let the timer go down to exactly 0 and then they ban. So
I kind of
it might just make
I
most
kind
of
of
the
like
time.
that though, using all your time except extra time to make sure that you're still talking, thinking things through.
Shows you how important this match is.
There you go. I mean, first game does matter a lot. First game of a whole tournament. Sometimes you look back on that.
No bounty hunter this game.
Ooh, and no undying either.
Queen of Pain.
Queen of Pain is open. You're correct.
I mean, giving away Shadow Fiend.
Queen of Pain,
Radiant,
yeah, Shadow
Shadow
Fiend
Fiend,
Radiant.
Shadow
yes.
Fiend's true.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It's a difficult position if you're Empire.
Gyro's also open.
I don't think Gyro's as high priority as those two.
Yeah,
Well,
if,
right,
you,
I
if
mean-
you have those, you probably want to grab. I think Queen would be the most flexible among the three. I'd say, like, you can lane the Queen, safe lane, solo mid, off lane. So yeah, Queen is the most flexible of all the three.
I think what they might be considering is if they pick any of the two others, like Shadow Fiend Gyro, if you were to pick 2 out of 3, that might be the weakest duo, because Quap works better together with the 2
Yeah.
others.
Right.
So maybe grabbing Quap will make Vici not pick both Shadow
Both.
Fiend Gyro, and they can grab the other one. There we go.
Okay.
So now they
Rubik
could
and
get a
Gyro.
Cephas.
Okay,
Okay.
Rubik Gyro. In,
Well, so they have
Classic
the,
Vici Gaming early pick Rubik.
yeah, it's yeah. Look, who's drafting? Yeah, FY is drafting again, so expected. He's picking his own trump card list.
all right.
Are they
so-
going to pick a heavy support roaming duo? Like
when
Rubik
you
plus
talk
Lina?
about when you talk about Vici Gaming, it's always like Rubik Lina, Rubik plus 1. Like it used to be Rubik Lina or Rubik Lash, but obviously now you can't do Lash.
Should be
but-
Rubik Chen, I suppose.
That's not happening anymore.
But yeah, there
Vici
aren't,
played Lash
there
before it
aren't
was
that
cool.
many options, like aside from Lina.
True.
Not versus the Queen of Pain. that is.
Right.
Marana?
There's still the classic Rubik plus Chen, but it's
Yeah.
long gone.
Well, Dazzle has always been pretty prominent so far in the first day and a half here. Broodmother, second phase, ban. There you go. That's out of the question.
Good.
Does Empire have to ban Shadow Fiend in the next ban?
I don't think so. It depends on how.
I mean, but if you give like Shadow Fiend and Gyro to the opponent, it's a lot of pressure because those two together as cores, they are very strong late game, and it might get too difficult to cope if you can't end the game early. And looking at all the games today, it seems like teams have been trying really hard to finish the game, but they can't. So yeah, it could be a problem if the game drags on too long. Shadow Fiend plus Gyro, both very strong in the early game and very strong in late game as well.
Alright. Well, we're still waiting on Vici, of course, to go through their ban before we find out if Empire still wants to block that out, or if they've just got different plans. Maybe they don't expect, as you mentioned earlier, if they were going to pick 2 out of the 3, SF and Gyro are not the strongest of the 3 combinations, so maybe they won't even pick that.
Maybe if they want to give away the SF, then they go for like a very aggressive ganking heroes, like maybe Spirit Breaker plus Quap. Then you can pressure the Shadow Fiend a lot in the early phase and hopefully get a couple of kills on him. If you want to give it away, you probably have a plan ready anyways. So
right.
That might be one of the few solutions they have at this point.
Vici actually banned the Lina themselves, which I find a little bit interesting because they have the good combination with it.
Yeah, that's
Empire
weird.
already have Quap.
That is very weird.
And if they think it's going to be a Lina from Empire, they would expect it to be Resolution Lina mid, which would force the Quap either safe lane or off lane.
Yeah, on silent. Or Yoki, yeah.
Oh, you just said side lane, and that made me think of Siren, which we actually haven't seen picked or banned yet. That was the missing piece from the first phase. Naga Siren is actually still available.
I think he's really good versus Tuscan and Dying. Both of them are out of the pool, so it's not as big of a deal. I feel like she's best against those two as like the hottest picks.
She is very good with Gyro.
Very good with Dazzle.
Great setup.
You know, very good with Dazzle as well.
Okay, yeah, very good. So very good on both teams so far. I guess we'll find out who's more worried, or if maybe neither team is worried at all about the Siren.
I mean, she's just very good in general. Yeah. And I mean, but you know, if you want like a more aggressive support, like you know, if they want to run like a Dark Seer Sand combo, let's say, like, you know, that's something that really limits you if you need some damage.
It feels like they're banning themselves out.
Yeah, what do you make
they're
of this
banning Lina
SF
and
ban?
banning Shadow Fiend. It's very unusual. Not sure why, but
I mean, was it ever going to be a big concern that Empire tries to secure both?
I mean, banning the Shadow Fiend as well that's like one thing that comes to my mind is they have Dazzle and they're on the Dire side, they probably didn't want them to have easy access to Roshan. But here we go. Here's the IO pick that Sin was talking about during the draft.
1 for 2. Just need a next game as well.
Yeah.
And I was right today about something. I actually don't
He
know what my
wasn't
prediction score
He
is
wasn't
today.
sure whether it was going to come in the first phase or it was going to come in the second phase. But here we go. So Empire is going to be the first team to snag it up. And there are a lot of pairings that could go well with the IO right now. That's Tiny is the classic one.
Are we going to see the
fine
Bristle?
Yeah, Bristle is fine as well.
Both these are
I mean, that's Dazzle IO plus Bristle. That guy's never going to die.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's why. That's why they banned Lina.
Okay, so that they're actually going to try and push, like Dragon Knight and Gyro, like push very heavily early with the ultimate from Dragon Knight, and okay, that's the Tiny.
Okay. Well,
I'm guessing. So the reason this is a little bit weird, so they banned 2 heroes that lane really well against Dragon Knight in Shadow Fiend and Lina, but they're still a Quap. But maybe they just feel more confident putting Dragon Knight against Queen of Pain than those 2.
I think Dragon Knight can go alright with Queen of Pain with the CM aura, and with the recent introduction of damage reduction with the breath, he can actually deal with Queen of Pain much better now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think their supports are well equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel it might actually not be a Queen of Pain in middle lane. It might be a IO Tiny and the Quap will be on safe lane, you know. So Dragon Knight might have a lot of trouble if that happens.
I mean, Ben, how are you feeling about Vici's draft? Because you were talking about the Dragon Knight being employed for an earlier push strategy.
I mean, for Empire, I think their draft is just simply a lot better. They didn't have to. They don't even have to worry about the Wyvern pretty much because core Rubik and Crystal Maiden is pretty much non-existent. So they got away with a free IO pick with banning out 2 heroes that are also like pretty decent versus their lineup. So in effect, they got like more bans than they really have right now.
You don't think offlane Wyvern is a thing for Vici? If they wanted to.
I don't think it would do well at all versus Queen of Pain, and I think they would pretty much win 2.
Yeah, if they're expecting it to be cool.
Right. And like their supports, I think, are ill-equipped to deal with the Tiny Wisp, and you want like, you know, a Disruptor, a Winter Wyvern, maybe a Tusk, or heavy AoE. Like Gyrocopter is decent, but you know, Shadow Fiend with a mech is also pretty good at dealing with it, and I just don't think they have too many solutions for it right now.
I think they need something to deal with relocating.
They need initiating hero. I mean, Tide could have been nice, but
And Empire reading that right away and banning the Tide.
Clock is in.
This is like one of the. It's like there's not much choice left. They have to pick something that is going to start the fight for them, because it's going to be difficult for the rest of the team to make a first move. Like Clockwork is definitely one of the few better heroes like doing that, and Empire is going to go for their classic off-lane Earthshaker or Sand King. So in this case, it will be the Earthshaker.
Yeah. The Sand King being banned out in the last minute by Vici, but then the Tide being banned out by Empire to shut it down. So Clock being the last resort. All right, so with the Earthshaker coming in, I mean, how's Empire looking in game one? Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say much more room for error, whereas Vici's draft, they have to execute much better to win the game.
I'm not as biased against Vici Gaming's draft as you are. I feel like they actually have the tools they need to kite the Tiny. They have good stuns, they have good slows, they have lots of them as well to try to kite around. I think the most important thing Vici Gaming needs to deal with is how do they prevent the Quap from running rampant. If they manage that, I don't think IO Tiny is the big problem here.
All right. Well, we will find out. Game is starting. Game number 1 between Vici Gaming and Team Empire of Group B.
For most of the game, like he's just, if he ever gets the Earthshaker inside of his cogs with battery assault, you can't actually do anything as an Earthshaker.
Oh, most definitely. Like if I'm an Earthshaker off lane, and I see a Clockwork on the other team, it's just annoying to play in general. And the other thing that we should consider is that Rubik, if you give up a Rubik Fissure, especially with the type of lineup that Empire have, it's going to be so hard for them to play against. Because one of the harder counters to the Queen of Pain, especially for setups, is having the Fissure, right? You can Fissure, then the Rubik can walk in, lift, and then the Crystal Maiden can Frostbite, and it's pretty much a free kill. So I kind of want to see Silent not build typically, which is the whole, what is it, like a lot of people just go Orchid off the bat. I actually think going something like Ags, BKB, or Yule Scepter, like something defensive first, is the better play here.
Of course, we want to take the time to welcome everybody from the stream that is just now joining our commentary. Hope you guys are ready for what should be one of the better games of the group stages, as Empire and Vici Gaming both rated quite heavily. We're going to see Empire already setting up on this top bounty rune. Vici Gaming will take the bottom one. So it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any first blood action. Ice. Whoa, he's just playing this very aggressively. Throws down an early cogs and managed to get two bounces
you gotta
off
be careful.
of it.
I actually thought he was going to get pushed one more time onto the... that would have been miserable.
Pushed up onto the cliff.
Yeah, he has no gold. That would have just ruined his game.
That was a very clever move by Ice, especially the way that he set that one up. Like, even if he doesn't get the bounce back, just getting one or maybe even two pushes like that is kind of worth use of the mana. Now, our middle lane is going to be Super facing up against his Resolution, Aloha Dance, Tiny Whisk combination. Of course, he's not going to be alone. Fenrir is going to be spending a lot of time bouncing in between jungle and moving into lane, as I'm sure Super is going to need the help.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, there's no reason for Fenrir to just abandon the Dragon Knight, because he's going to struggle in general. Like, look at this already. This is what we were talking about when we first saw the draft, is that the Dragon Knight does okay, but it's really deceptive. Like, it's not actually that great of a matchup. And so I'm pretty interested to see that.
A lot of bottle crowing is what Super has to do, because he has to stay at pretty much max HP, and even then he can't really get too close to the Tiny Whisk combination. He's going to have to just spam out a lot of Breathe Fires. Now, there is going to be some recovery gold to be had. As Fenrir is farming up the creeps, he's also stacking them. So he's killing the bigger creeps, but the smaller creeps are stacking up. I'm sure that'll be something Super is able to farm a little bit later with his Breathe Fire. Meanwhile, at top lane, Ice is dealing with a very difficult lane. 2 different ranged heroes and 2 different slows on top of that, as Always Wanna Fly has gone for the more offensive build level 1, as why would he need Shallow Grave or Shadow Wave in this matchup anyway?
Yeah, for sure. And for me, personally, Empire is just a team of polar opposites when compared to Vici Gaming. And it just feels like Empire have their number. Like, I think the last few times I've cast them, it's always been Empire that wins this matchup. And I think it just comes down to the playstyles. Like, Resolution is a completely different mid than Super, right? Like, Resolution likes to play incredibly aggro heroes that soak up a lot of farm. Ice likes to play like the playmaking mids and stuff like that, but this might actually be first blood here. if he's
Yeah,
not careful.
Aloha Dance, he actually snagged that haste rune. They're going to go for Ice, who trapped himself in the cogs, is trying to get away now, but the haste rune plus the extra movement speed on the tethered Tiny is allowing them to keep in pace. Ice goes for the deny. Oh, Aloha Dance actually snatched the first blood there.
he's giving him
with the
mana
last
too.
right click, and now Fenrir has enough mana. He's actually going to turn around, get off another Crystal Nova, but he will die as well. So Aloha Dance secures a double kill. The tower hit will actually finish him off in the end. But it's still a big win for Team Empire as they battle it out for that top rune.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. It's the playstyle of Empire. I don't think that Vici Gaming is used to teams getting this active on them and just playing so aggressively on them from the get-go. And it's kind of weird because the heroes would dictate otherwise, right? Like, the mid lane is very aggressive, but the types of supports that Empire typically pick are defensive ones, right? Like, they really favor heroes like the Shadow Demon, the Dazzle, and so those aren't heroes that you typically see initiate or anything like that. And in this game, you see that too, but it is Empire that pick up the first kill. Whereas their offlaner, Yoki, almost always plays the Earthshaker, the Sand King role, and on the flip side of Vici Gaming, you've got Ice that almost always plays some sort of playmaker role. Like, he doesn't just like to play a passive offlaner.
Now, both of these offlaners are going to be having a pretty difficult time. As we already mentioned, Ice is dealing with Queen of Pain plus even the Dazzle. Pretty obnoxious there. The Earthshaker, very dangerous matchup for him as well with the Gyrocopter. Being able to dish out so much damage with that Rocket Barrage, he's got to play pretty safe and passive in his lane. You could already see he's heading back to base. He figures, you know what, I'm already low on HP. I have no mana left. And that's really how he's going to get probably half to, if not maybe 3/4 of his CS is through some Fissure spam. So he's going to head on back to base and will return with a TP perhaps. Still waiting on some more action in this middle lane. Super, though, is being very careful to keep his HP bar up. Every single time he gets a toss on him, he makes sure to use another bottle charge to keep high HP. And whenever they go for a rune, he's able to move forward and get a couple of right clicks, but as soon as they return, he has to sit back once again.
Yeah, something interesting is Aloha Dance isn't playing the typical Wisp role on the dire side, whereas I don't actually think they cut down the trees, so they can't go for the repeated neutral stacks like most combinations opt to. And I think this is just because they want to try to apply as much pressure mid as they can, but it's not even like they're dominating in CS, and they haven't actually been able to pick up a kill on Super, so I would kind of like to see him revert to going back to the stack and focusing on that, just to give Resolution that huge infusion of gold.
Do you think there's any real danger that if Aloha Dance actually leaves, they're going to go for Super now? Attempted toss back there, but it actually misses. Resolution caught underneath the tower will take a lot of this damage, but there is, of course, that constant tether and damage reduction, but the toss back, now the tether fades, and there's no more heal. With the rotation out from FY, they actually pick up the kill on Team Empire. Huge loss there for the Tiny Wiz combo.
That was actually so big of a rotation. Like, there's no way that they could have anticipated that, and it was just good play overall. And Ice is going to get isolated out, but he's just going to TP and be fine. But that was just really good support rotation, because typically the way that you approach it against a Tiny IO is that you don't want to go on the Tiny, right? But they just did it in such a way that there was no response possible, and Resolution forced down to this bottom lane, but they don't even get the kill on him, and so this is just wasted time.
Yeah, kind of weird rotation. They must have thought they were going to be able to get a combo on Gyrocopter, maybe even toss him back underneath the tower, but it just was not going to work out for them. So he makes his way back to the middle lane, where Super is now sitting at a much more comfortable 17-3 on CS, while Resolution sitting slightly above him, 22-7. Comparing the Queen of Pain and the Gyrocopter, Gyrocopter is slightly ahead, but the Queen of Pain has many, many more denies. As the Gyrocopter, I think, has spent some of his time even pushing the wave into the tower. Now the top lane, Ice really trying to control the runes as much as possible, but Aloha Dance is still able to snag a big one, Regeneration for the Wisp.
You have to still contest runes and stuff like that. Like, you have to absolutely continue to apply pressure so that both supports have to rotate in, or they just feel scared. And Resolution follows him every single time to do that. And so I think it's just a good plan by him, because there's not a whole lot he can do in this top lane, Ice. Once he's against a Queen of Pain that has the levels on him. And the Queen of Pain's also going to pick up a bottle now, and so the lane's going to get even more difficult for him. Because he doesn't have one of his own. In this mid lane, Super actually with the stun and both supports rotating forward.
Oh no, the tether's going to be broken. Oh no, it actually still keeps alive, and that will actually keep Resolution alive potentially. No, the burst damage is still too much. Aloha Dance couldn't stop that one. Tried to tether and bottle as much as possible, but it does not work out. And another kill on the Tiny. At this rate, Super is now going to completely take over this lane by himself.
Yeah, this is so significant because Vici Gaming are just waiting for Resolution and the Tiny, or the Aloha Dance to just get antsy, and they're forcing engagements way past where they can. And so you're seeing them just get a little bit too jumpy. Like, they should be relaxing,
Is this
just focusing
round
on
3?
farming.
A 3-man smoke up, how TP
Oh,
to the
this is
tier
so
2
smart.
tower. If they get a 3rd kill on Resolution, Empire are going to be falling so far behind. Oh, they're actually sneaking around. They're going to look for the stacks. But now they're going to see there is no stacks. There's no recovery mechanism whatsoever for the Tiny Wisp. And so now looks like they head up to top lane instead.
They just missed the stack. It was actually over there.
Oh, dear. Well, they will probably catch Always Wanna Fly. Or maybe not, FY.
They want
to get in range.
Silent.
The Cogs push back there on Silent. They are able to control him. The Frostbite is there, and Silent is taken out. Always Wanna Fly. He's going to run himself away ahead of How. Another Rocket Barrage. Always Wanna Fly drops low, and the burst damage of the rocket was enough to finish off the Dazzle before a Shallow Grave could come out.
Yeah, and right now, Vici Gaming are just playing so well with each other. Like, they're just creating opportunities constantly. There was a time period, I feel, where Vici were actually struggling to make things happen around the map. It felt like their movements were a little too forced. But going for that 6-minute rotation into the jungle just to find stacks, and then they come away with the kill on the safe laner and the 5-position support is absolutely key. And the fact is that the Dragon Knight itself hasn't even been slowed down that much.
How the first relocate comes in, and How does get picked off. Ice, quick to pop the Cogs, and will be able to TP away. Looks like Resolution still wanted to find more. Superman's up. He goes for Always Wanna Fly, trying to target him now, knowing that the relocate back was going to be coming in, and that means no more support from the Tiny. Always Wanna Fly gonna tick out here potentially. Nope, he is good. No, finally the poison got to him. They tried to heal him up, but the bottle was not enough HP. So the tier 1 tower at the top lane will now fall, and Empire very rapidly falling behind in net worth and experience.
It's actually insane how good Vici Gaming are rotating right now. Like, their rotations aren't obvious at all, but they're still making them. That smoke gank into the jungle to pick off the safe laner, the fact that both supports are rotating like they are,
Yoki.
and even this bottom gank.
Yeah, he's caught out entirely. Yoki, he's going to turn around, throws out the Fisher, but not even that lands. Very sneaky setup from How, throwing out the call down first.
Yeah, now they're finally starting to do some stacks, but they do have one decently sized stack to go to, but it's not even like Resolution is very farmed in comparison to the Dragon Knight. The Dragon Knight has 3 kills and a tower, despite being dual laned against one of the more fearsome dual lane combos, and Empire are definitely not satisfied to see how this early game has gone for them.
I would say they're quite lucky that they did not get a single golem in this medium camp stack. Every single one. Centaurs and the like. So Tiny's going to be happy with that, at least that small bit of luck, but it's still Vici Gaming.
Oh, they got to be careful about going for this rune.
Yeah, Super's here. Hookshot already being laid down. They're going to try and pop Aloha Dance immediately. Cogs push back, but Aloha Dance still gets enough time to pop the wand. And there comes the Queen of Pain, blowing up the clockwork. And now with the extra damage, they'll kick out the Dragonite as well. 2-for-1 trade-off with the Whisk going down. Well worth it for Team Empire.
Yeah, I actually thought that was going to go poorly for Empire, but every single person rotates for that rune. They spot the danger that's imminent and Silent, wasting no time to blow that ultimate. Completely worth it because, one, you slow down the Dragon Knight pretty significantly because a lot of his gold was just built off the kills, right? And for him to die right there, he only has 30 CS at 10 minutes, so he was doing okay, but Empire getting that killing spree on the Resolution is pretty significant because now he's got drums completed, and now he's got some stats and mobility, and so despite him starting 0-2, now he's 2-2, and you can finally see him start to catch up.
So they go back to farm up the jungle. And this also means, well, I was going to say that middle lane is open for someone else to take, but Empire going to continue to be aggressive. They go on to How with the relocate in as well. Double Fisher, stun, and the Echo Slam on top. They're going to lock down FY and try and finish him off as well. But Super comes in, nice Shallow Grave in order to save Aloha Dance, and FY does die in the end, and it seems like Empire will be able to get away scot-free. Super still looking to be able to chase down somebody.
Re-engage on
Resolution, yeah, he wants to fight this one. He's got a combination in second. Long-range stun gets laid out. Now as Fisher comes out on top of the combination for the Tiny, Super almost dies. A hook shot in. Super finally going to take out from Silent. Silent now needs to make a blink away. He will have that up now. So Tiny dies, but they get Super in the end. Empire's still very low, but between the heals of the Wisp as well as the Dazzle, they'll get back up to a decent amount of HP, but no more opportunities to continue and fight. Team Empire still happy with the way those battles are going.
Oh, for sure. The gold change, I mean, they got 1,000 off of that. It was well worth it. They managed to pick off How at the same time. It's just good rotations, good rotational play by Empire, and Vici had the lead early on, but they have to respect that combination. The relocate coming in, they didn't even care that they landed in the middle of the call down. Like, they're still willing to just blow up How and then take the advantage from there on out.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if the stuns are already there, like the Fisher, the slow doesn't mean much to the Tiny Wisp, and the damage, honestly, doesn't mean much either when the Wisp is able to just instantly heal you up and kind of refresh some of that mana as well. So the Tiny has definitely made a great recovery, now sitting above both Super and How. And then you have Silence, Queen of Pain topping out the board at 5K. Is going to be going for a Eul Scepter first, so no Orchid that we were talking about earlier. You didn't really want to see that item. Do you agree with Eul Scepter?
Yeah, that was the item I told her. I was like, you should get a Eul's. Like, you get a Eul's, a BKB, or an Axe. Eul's is the safest for the early game, because if you look at Vici Gaming's lineup, they've got the Rubik to initiate on you, but more importantly than that, it's the Crystal Maiden Frostbite that typically gets you killed.
Yeah.
But if you can just Eul's dodge it, wait for the animation to end, there's nothing that'll instantly disable you from Vici Gaming unless Ice 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 times the Clockwork Hook perfectly. But at top, they should be really careful right now as Resolution, if he gets initiated on, Aloha Dance actually looks like he wants to be the target, and Ice 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 is coming in hot.
Yeah, they know if they go on Resolution, there's going to be a relocate save. So they sneak around behind and try and go for Aloha Dance first. Great setup from Ice, managing to land that hook shot beautifully. Oh, the damage there. Those two supports. If they had actually gotten a double kill on that, that would have been a very impressive turn. But FY will live. Fenrir also going to be just fine. So great pick off there for Vici Gaming. Not going to be laying down to Empire's aggression. They respond with a smoke gank of their own.
Yeah, and I really like that Vici Gaming seems so willing to bring How to fights. I think this is actually a little bit different than most of the teams that we see. Is most teams just like to farm up their one position, let him use the jungle as much as you can, but How seems to be participating non-stop in fights. Like, we saw him in the 8-minute gank, we see it again. They're willing to bring him to the ganks because they realize their support duo without him is actually quite weak. Like, they've got a Rubik and a Crystal Maiden that don't independently do too much damage, and so bringing How along, you have some lockdown, you get the Rocket Barrage off. It's almost always a kill when they see it coming.
Silent, that Eul Scepter is coming in fast. He's going to farm up the rest of these neutrals and will be able to pick that one up. Super, meanwhile, is he going to be going for an early BKB here, or is this the Sange? What about the Glimmer Cape build that was quite popular in China and actually made it over to the Western scene as well, where you would go Glimmer Cape and then break it apart for the Shadow Blade? Is this just not a Shadow Blade game? I
think that it's not a Shadow Blade game. I think that going for... if you're going to get the Shadow Blade, you would have done it first. But I think going for BKB here is a really safe option. Because if you're taking a look at Empire's damage, most of it is magic damage. The only source of physical damage is from the Tiny, who typically isn't going to be able to get the Aghanims as a first or second. Like, he's not going to be able to get it until after the drums minimum.
Right.
And if you take a look at the Queen of Pain, yes, the ultimate goes through, but if that's your only source of damage that pierces through the BKB, you're perfectly satisfied with that.
A 3-man smoke for Team Empire, but really it's a 5-man smoke. They have the relocate available. If Team Empire run into somebody from Vici Gaming in the jungle, they will immediately relocate in order to finish that hero off, but it seems much more likely we're going to have full-on team fight here. Ice 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 and Fenrir seem to be the first potential targets they're going to run into, but both of them are hiding in the trees in these hidden little spots. It seems like both are prepared for some potential action. Super does manage to take that tier 1 tower, and Vici Gaming are still making sure they stay very grouped up. It seems pretty obvious they know what's going on. Resolution will be able to get the tier 1 tower at the top lane at the same time, so while we're having this sort of standoff, both teams were able to take a tower. It's just up to Empire, I guess, if they really want to force it here.
The issue is that Empire knows that they have a ward there, but it looks like it doesn't matter as they are going to run into each other.
Oh, Ice 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 managed to snag out Always Want to Fly. He's going to be in some serious trouble. The relocate's still going to come in. They managed to find How and pop him immediately. FY responds with a toss on a Resolution, which almost kills him, but now with a little bit of heal up from the wand, Resolution seems to be staying alive. Now they jump over the tether, and they will relocate back up. Both Yoki as well as the Queen of Pain will be able to run themselves away as well. So despite the fact that it was kind of an awkward way to start that fight, it actually turned out quite well with the relocate being on the money. Aloha Dance jumping immediately into that neutral camp meant that they had quick access to How. Now Super comes forward, trying to challenge Resolution alongside Fenrir, but they don't have the catch just yet.
The thing is about Empire's lineups always is that there's some form of them having
Ice.
the early game.
Nope, never mind. He's going to be good. There's no way they can actually get to him, so Good TP out. He's been very good about keeping TPs because he knows there's a little bit of a lack of stuns because he's been facing up against a Dazzle and Queen of Pain constantly.
I think Silent had the Yules up, though. I'm not sure. Maybe it was on CD. But I didn't see him use it, but it might just be my mistake. But as I was saying, it's really tough to fight Empire in the mid game because their drafts are so oriented around having almost 3 supports rather than the 3 cores that we typically see.
Right.
Like they pick Resolution or Silent, often really hard 1 positions, and somebody has to lose out on farm, right? And that person is almost always going to be their offlaner. Like every single time he plays the Axe, the Clockwork, the Sand King, the Earthshaker, some sort of initiation role. And so
yeah, Clockwork doesn't need much farm, and then Sand King as well as Earthshaker only really need Blink Dagger, so they operate kind of fine without too much farm.
yeah, exactly. And so it's almost like Empire have 3 supports, just 1 super greedy supports. It's like they have 2-4 players, and in the mid game that helps so much when it comes to team fights because you only need that 1 item to really make an effective difference.
And it's funny because those heroes, especially the Earthshaker, I think, like you can still have a very large impact as an Earthshaker with just a Blink Dagger, even if it is quite late game. So it still works out that even if Empire do get late, you don't really feel that 3 supports loss too much. It's not like you feel like you're missing too much of a core. Now, they almost finish up the Aghanim Scepter for Resolution. Team Empire, do they curb their aggression at any point in time and try and finish up this Aghanim Scepter, or maybe even try and farm up an AC before they continue to go? Because I almost feel like it's a little bit of pressure is on Vici Gaming now to try and be the aggressors and try and take those tier 2 towers with their push.
If you decide to go for dual BKBs like Vici are doing on their cores, and the Blade Mail, this is pretty much built so that you can win the early engagements. So it is kind of on Vici. The onus is on them to at least get a little bit more aggressive than they have been, especially since DK just isn't a flash farming core. Like you do want to get aggressive, take towers. That's the point of the hero. Whereas Tiny, he's naturally going to build tanky because drums, treads, and Aghanim Scepter is just a ton of stats. And so he doesn't necessarily have to go for the BKB, especially because he has the Wisp backing him up. So it's less important for him to just straight up build into that BKB, meaning he'll transition into the late game a lot better and a lot stronger because his BKB timer will naturally be longer, right?
Right.
So for Vici to both go for BKBs early on, it does mean that by the 30-40 minute mark, those are going to be 5-second BKBs, and they won't nearly be as effective. So I think the onus is completely on Vici Gaming to at least get aggressive, and you're seeing that right now. Like I think the smoke attempt is meant to pick one off and then go for Roche or something like that, but they'll be satisfied with the stack at the same time.
Yeah, I'm taking away that from the Tiny with Aghanim Scepter is going to be a good setup. Ice is sitting in the trees, ready to go, essentially, if anybody shows up. But in the meantime, they'll just be happy with that stack, as you said. Do they try and go Roshan? Is that one way to force it? It is a little dangerous, though, against... push out the side lanes real quickly and easily get a tier 2 trade-off.
I think if they had found like 2 picks or something, they would have, but at top... how's going to be the... okay, never mind. I think like if you had a Medallion or some other heroes, but a Dragon Knight and a Gyrocopter that both go BKB probably aren't enough to accomplish that.
Just not enough physical damage yet from them.
There's no natural Medallion builder on their team at the same time. Like, Empire have the much easier way to go for the Roshan.
True. Speaking of that, Empire may want to Roche if they find a pick off here. Silent has already run into Ice, but Yule Scepter. And that's about it. Silent blinks himself away. Still, though, they've bought some space. They see a couple of heroes. They probably presume Vici Gaming also try and group up after seeing something like that. And this will leave empty space for Resolution and a little hot dance to push out the bottom lane.
Yeah, they're just farming more efficiently because Vici Gaming are afraid to lose a fight at this point. And if you split up against a tiny Wisp that have Ags, you're just asking to die. Or you don't want to pop your BKB charges early on because it delays any sort of death ball push that you want to do even further. And you can see that Empire preparing for that just with the way that Silent is building. He's going to go for the Aghanim Scepter second. And
oh, nice toss forward. Beautiful setup on Silent. That is creativity in action. The toss combinations at work, the instant stun followed up with the Dragonite, and now with the loss of the Queen of Pain, Empire are very unlikely to fight. I mean, you already said Vici Gaming are built to, with the double BKBs to try and force fights. Now, you already don't really want to go into the enemy's plan, right? And when you're missing a Queen of Pain, that just makes it all the more obvious. So Empire immediately go for the split push option, pushing out both bottom and top lane.
Yeah, I definitely think that Empire feel pretty comfortable with this position because they're just going to push faster. Like a Tiny Wisp, if you notice at bottom, just 4 hits and he's already got the tower down to 600 from full. And so going for these types of trades is perfectly fine. Your Tiny is getting quite farmed off of this, and what you're trying to do in situations
Oh, the
like
relocate,
top,
there's the blink in. Ice just gets destroyed. The immediate response is there from How, but no matter how fast you are, Tiny, Earthshaker, and Wisp are just a little bit faster, both in movement speed, but also that burst damage.
and that's the issue. That's the first time you've seen Vici not 5-man, right? They show Ice at top. It's pretty clear that he's alone, especially with this ward up. Like this ward, when they went for the smoke and got it off, it meant that this entire section was so easy for them to spot. Ice shows himself on the map for like 2 seconds, immediately gets taken out, and now, I mean, Vici are just scared because there's no real safe place for them to show themselves. They're not entirely certain where the wards are, and that's just making it difficult for them to maneuver around the map.
And they've only got 1 smoke left. So that's really the last opportunity for Vici Gaming to get the easy, sneaky pick off and turn that into 5-manning. If you're out of smokes, though, and you're stuck in this situation where you want a 5-man, but you also maybe don't have the power to push uphill yet, what do you really do? What are your options? Do you just 5-man into tier 2 towers repeatedly and then try and hope that gold advantage is enough for you to go for maybe Roshan? Or do you continue to try and find, well, maybe a pick off on Resolution? This is a way to go. Call down's not going to be there in time, though. Resolution is fast enough to get away. Hook shot actually misses from Ice. Either way, just doesn't seem like they were going to have a good fight, as both supports were kind of ready to respond to the Tiny's need.
The thing is, like you said, if you don't have smokes like that, you just have to fight around where you think you have vision. They already dewarded the ward over here. They have one over here, so they can spot when the Tiny goes for the Ancients. But at the same time, I think that was just a little bit of sloppy execution by Vici Gaming, because they should have at least been able to force the relocate or something out of that. But the Tiny actually just walked away very calmly and wasn't in range of anything. And now Empire are just going to play the split push game because they're allowed to. If you only send one hero to deal with the split push, then the Tiny IO relocate in, instantly blow somebody out, and get out. And that's the thing that you're so afraid of if you're Vici Gaming right now. Like, they're so afraid of it right now that Super's even opted to go for the Blink Dagger so that he can initiate upon the Tiny, but I don't even... Again, that's more of a mid-game build. Like, you don't actually have any damage now on to the Dragon Knight, and so you're going to struggle in the mid-game to do more than just stun.
13-11 right now. It's 25 minutes in, and Empire do hold a pretty decent experience lead and only about a 2,000 gold lead, but they do have, at least for now, the better late game in the Tiny Wisp, right? It's just such a powerful combination late game. It seems, it just seems really tough to beat, and I'm not sure if Gyrocopter DK are going to be good enough.
Especially with this Queen of Pain picking up this Aghanim Scepter, it's going to be really hard to push into Empire's 5-man. It's going to just make things even more frustrating for Vici Gaming. Because it's not as if they aren't trying to get into fights, it's just that they simply can't without forcing something completely and losing the game. And this is the advantage of their lineup because they decided to go for the Medallion, they are Dire Side, and the Tiny Wisp can do this quite quickly. And with this Roshan, it's going to stall the game out even further for them if they want to. They can decide to go for this bottom tier 2 push because the tower's so low, and I don't think that Vici Gaming want to get into that fight in any case.
Rocket is there. Vici Gaming are on their way, but it's just too late. The Age is already in the hands of Resolution, and Vici Gaming are left with the option of whether or not they want to try and force this one. It looks like Ice says we have to. They trap in Resolution and will be able to get the kill on him, it seems, but he does have the Aegis. So the rest of Team Empire are going to wait it out and try and go for a re-engage. But How is making sure that the Aloha Dance doesn't have the opportunity to be able to get over to Resolution. Left-hand side, Silent trying to blow up FY. Looks like he's successful, and they do get the relocate over to the side. Aloha Dance barely survives through that one, but Super blinks forward. It is able to get the kill on the Wisp, and now trying to lock down Resolution. Gets the stun, and with How's damage, it looks like they'll be able to get the kill on the Tiny as well. A fantastic fight for Vici Gaming, and with the Dragon Knight as well as the Gyrocopter still up, they're going to be able to push uphill.
Yeah,
this could be a whole lane of racks, actually.
It's just so fortuitous that the lane is pushed up. They immediately head there. They're going to get racks off of this, and Empire are going to be so dissatisfied with how that just went. They didn't get anything out of that. They managed to pick up 2 heroes that weren't really necessary to the push, and at the same time, you lose your Tiny twice without any sort of backup. And I think it was just a matter of not being able to set up that fight properly, and people just being way too split up from each other. Like, Empire took that fight as if it were mini 1v1 fights, and you're never going to be able to consolidate your power in that way. And now you're with the 2 BKBs, Vici actually never wasted them. now they've got 9-second BKB still remaining, and the one time they do use them, they pick up a fairly dominant fight. But I still think Empire is in an okay position despite what just happened. Like, losing a Rax in a tier 3 is obviously pretty bad, but they still have the experience lead. The difference in net worth is not that bad, all things considered.
Yeah. I mean, if any combination can fight well up against a Rax or 2 Rax advantage, it's the Tiny Wisp. And then on top of that, I mean, it was just the range Rax, right? Like the melee being more really the important one when it comes to pushing down towers. So Vici Gaming got definitely a really good change-up. I mean, the trajectory of this game seemed to be all Team Empire, but they aren't in the driver's seat just yet. Team Empire is still going to be able to farm up rather quickly on this Tiny, who is working on the Assault Cuirass. So Vici Gaming are going to need another big team fight like that soon. Question is, how soon do you really try and force it? You maybe think that you bought yourself enough time that you can sit back, farm up, and maybe wait for your opportunity, or do they need to go in the next 5 to 10 minutes?
No, wait for your opportunities. That's what they did exactly right there. Even with the Roshan advantage that Empire had, they just had a better looking fight because they were able to split up everybody. And Ice had such a good initiation. He was able to split the Tiny and the IO up from everybody. He got his Blade Mail off before the combination. So the Tiny pretty much killed himself, and you're just waiting for opportunities like that to happen, and you instantly lose a Rax. The thing, though, is that I think once Resolution gets a BKB, things become a little bit tricky for them. He's fully completed his Assault Cuirass, and so that last fight has to demonstrate to him that I have to get a BKB at some point.
Super on hot pursuit here. He's got the Blink Dagger. Silent, though, has an Invis rune. And they don't have any counter vision, so he is perfectly fine.
Oh, they've got the gem.
Never mind. Silent. Jesus, he stuck around for way too long. Blinks himself away. He may still actually be caught. He's got another blink on the left-hand side. Always want to fly is the one who's actually going to fall. Vici Gaming turned to address him and even stole the Shallow Grave. Nice steal for the Rubik. That's a big one.
Yeah, but the Tiny and the IO aren't interested in getting into any sort of fights. The Glyph is up, and I'd expect Vici Gaming to use it, because you don't want to just give up its free Tier 2 tower. It stalls the game out a little bit longer, and it just makes things really tough, because the more exposed Tier 2 towers you have, the better potential there is for the combination to just, when you're all in 5-man pushing, they just backdoor your tower.
Yeah,
and then they back to your Rax.
And Team Empire not in a position where they can go, okay, we forced the Glyph, let's just go ahead and 5-man in and, try and go uphill. Empire are going to be spending this game a lot more just kind of poking and prodding at these towers every now and again. There's no potential all-in play for the next 5 minutes. So the Glyph being used there, definitely not a problem. Super does have a Sage here, and if this is really early, we've seen DKs occasionally go SNY, but it's super rare. Much more obvious would be the Silver Edge build with the Shadow Blade, but I think you would have built that first, right? I mean, you mentioned that earlier, plus he's already got the Blink Dagger. So is this a Heaven's Halberd
I would
play?
like to see it, especially if he thinks that Resolution is going to be greedy. There's going to be a time window where he's still not going to grab a BKB in time, and that's actually going to really screw him over. As Hao is looking for it right now, and Vici Gaming are all grouped up. They're all ready for this fight right now, and Empire just trying to get the high ground advantage, but it looks like they're actually just going to push straight down mid, and there's not a whole lot that can be done about this. They should get back in time.
Team Empire going to be forced into a base defense here. There's no reason they should give up a melee Rax. They're a little bit late on their TPs, though, it seems, as they're even going to go ahead and use the Wisp and Tiny TP back. They don't want to try and relocate in. Probably for the best. Super is going to be the first target here with a Fissure and a small amount of damage laid out. Super is even tossed up in the air and immediately, Jesus, gets Echo slammed down, and our Dragonite has just performed a disappearing act. Yoki, though, managed to get save out from the Shallow Grave. Aloha Dance. Ice with the force staff forward will make sure he does go down. Resolution is left without his little buddy.
That was so scary. I saw Super, and I think he thought he could wait to use the BKB, but as soon as he gets tossed up in the air, he gets slammed right back down with the Sonic Wave.
Yeah, that was just a really good read from Yoki going, okay, we can watch on him. Oh, FY, hello. He performs an Echo Slam of his own and even then steals the blink away from the Queen of Pain as they kill him. Now Resolution, he's been caught inside the cogs. The Force Staff over, Resolution still caught by the Frostbite. Needs to try and get back to the fountain, though, as the Wisp is still not up for another 15 seconds. That's gotta be that melee Rax forfeit.
Yeah, they're going to have to give this up. Even without the Queen of Pain, they can't really get into a fight right now. And Hao going to take that Rax and walk away. And I mean, Vici Gaming are looking stronger by the moment, and they're just approaching these fights so much better. Like, FY is still in Echo Slam. He was able to counter use it onto Silent. He's stolen Blink. He's just been so relevant this game, and now we're starting to see a hero. Rubik isn't typically a hero that you pick in the first two, almost ever, right? Like you take the Dazzle, you take the Disruptor, but they felt so confident in his Rubik that they were willing to take it in the first two, and now you're seeing why.
Yeah, absolutely. And our Gyrocopter, he's about to finish up an MKB, so a huge increase in damage for him. The Dragonite is actually going to be going for the little bit later SNY. So no Heaven's Halberds. I thought that would have been a great idea versus the Tiny in order to kind of force him to go into a BKB, and if he doesn't have it, that Disarm would be rather powerful. You can see Resolution is going for the BKB now, though. He's already got the Ogre Club.
Yeah, it probably makes more sense to go for the SNY here. If he goes for a Silver Edge, which he could, it doesn't really prevent too much at this point anymore. And maybe if he had gone for it for first or second item, but almost nobody does that. And SNY is just an overall decent item. The thing I'm increasingly more worried about, though, is that if Resolution doesn't get a BKB by the time the next fight rolls around, I just don't think he can do anything. If you notice in every single fight, Ice is throwing himself upon Resolution. He pops the Blade Mail and lets him hit him. Otherwise, you just waste the potential of the Wisp, because the Dragonite at the same time engages on Aloha Dance every single time. And so the Tiny isn't able to protect anyone while he's in the cogs, and he's just taking repeated damage.
Super pops his ultimate. He wants to take this tier 2, take it fast, and, well, they could probably even push uphill and force another team fight. They're in a great position for it. Roshan is going to be respawning in 3 minutes. In the meantime, Team Empire are immediately trying to go for the split push, as the Tiny Wisp always does. Resolution takes away the tier 2 and now starts marching uphill, so it seems like Vici Gaming, they probably don't want to make that kind of trade-off. It's just too dangerous against a Tiny Wisp. Trading racks is when you're kind of already ahead. Seems a bit unnecessary. As I say that, though, the Tiny Wisp has backed themselves away, and Vici Gaming are now almost putting themselves in a position to re-engage.
Yeah, the problem right now is that Empire don't have really many wards up. They've got one for Roshan to spot the possible attempt, but if they don't walk through that river area, it's actually really hard for them to see what Vici Gaming are doing, and so they don't necessarily feel safe going for this top split push. With all the information that we have on the map, it looks really obvious, right? To try to force them back, but in this type of situation, it's really difficult for them to just make that blind call, and with Roshan spawning so soon at the same time, they can't just all-in forfeit for that, because Vici Gaming will go high ground with that Aegis, and how has a DD rune bottled? Really smartly given by Super, although it is going to get popped now, and he's got an MKB at the same time, so that damage we were talking about them lacking is no longer a problem.
Oh, definitely. And at this rate, with the way that Super is actually keeping in pace, he could actually be a decent damage dealer as time goes on as well. Now, Resolution is still top of the board, sitting at 17,000. He's got the Aghanims now with the BKB, and of course that Assault Cuirass he picked up earlier. Silent has the BKB as well, so they do have that magic immunity option. Yoki has gone for not only the Blink Dagger and Force Staff, but also the Yule Scepter for the added utility. What is really the play for Yoki with this Yules?
I think it's just to throw up whoever he can and buy time. It's kind of like the same application of when you just pick up an item to get an advantage in a team fight, right? It resets things a lot. For example, if you can just Ice hooks in, you can lift him before the cogs or anything like that. Or if you can just continue the fight more than anything. So if Yoki gets initiated on, then he can just immediately use himself, then Force Staff, then Blink out, and just reposition. Like, it's just a pure utility item.
Oh, this could be the play. If Vici Gaming managed to get a pick off here, this could be the just the crack in the armor that allows them to crack this whole entire game open. They managed to take out the Whiz Bubbles. Resolution making the TPL, but
oh, he gets tossed.
FY, what a play! Stealing the toss, tossing Resolution up in the air, and that means Resolution is now stuck. He's going to have to stick here and think about what he did wrong. Free kill for Vici Gaming turns to 2, and now Always Wanna Fly is going to make it a third. Double kill for How, and this seems to be another set of racks as Empire have no buybacks.
Yeah, this is going to mean at least one set of racks. They can't really take the one at top because the tier 2 tower still stands, but I mean, this game in the beginning was Empire favored. Like, they had the better builds, they had a really good combination, but the support play from Vici Gaming...
Oh, the slam as he jumps forward, but How is still going to be able to stay alive. The burst damage wasn't quite enough, and Queen of Pain quick to retreat. They tried to make that defense, but as Empire finally revealed their last card and Vici Gaming Trumpet, they will now be able to move into Empire's space, take out this lane of racks, and back out with a gigantic advantage.
I'm actually just blown away right now by Vici Gaming support combo. FY has 3 deaths. This Crystal Maiden with 1,000 HP has 1 death total this entire game against the type of lineup that she's up against. That's unbelievable. That just means his positioning this entire game, he hasn't been caught at all by the relocate combination. Like typically with this combination, you see aggression all across the map. You see one support, they die instantly. But FY and Fenrir, for a long time, they were considered the premier support duo. That's fallen off a bit, but in this first game that we're seeing by them, they're playing nearly flawlessly.
I'll be honest with you, Blitz, they never fell off in my mind. In my mind, when I think of combinations for supports, FY and Fenrir will always be. I don't care if they retire after TI5. I'm saying TI6, I'll be like, FY Fenrir, man. These two, they're the ones to, if you're looking at support duos, they are pretty much the champions. Now, Team Empire still have a big opening here. This is going to be a big fight around the Roshan. If they can actually win it, take that Aegis, maybe they can even at least get enough map control where they're feeling a lot more comfortable to farm, or maybe even if it's a big enough fight, for some buybacks. Vici Gaming have already got quite the significant lead, so they're not going to be quick to trying to do something drastic like attempting Roshan while Empire back up. They're just going to sit back and farm away.
Yeah, I just can't highlight enough. In that bottom fight, that actually might have been okay for Empire if only the IO gets taken out. But that toss steal,
amazing.
I mean, FY, he steals the Echo Slam, turns it around on Silent. There's just been so many plays. Remember that toss in mid as well when they picked off Silent, when he tosses his Dragon Knight in to set up for the stun call down? It's just been so consistently good. Like, if I had to name MVPs, although the game isn't nearly over yet, FY and Fenrir, even if this is a losing effort, they've just been playing outstandingly.
All right, a smoke up, but they're going to go into the cliff of death here, as Vlad calls it. Vici Gaming, they're already well set up to be able to defend this one. Potentially BKB already popped by Resolution. Ice managed to get away. There goes Yulpin from Silent, but now he's in trouble. Self-Fuel Scepter in order to dodge some of this. Hook shot is laid in, but Silent still gets a decent distance away, but Resolution is already gone out, and a Wiz couldn't manage to save him. Yoki, meanwhile, controlled by the supports, has to blink himself away, and once again, Vici Gaming just seemed to be playing defensively, waiting for Team Empire to come to them, and sure enough, that happens. Now that Team Empire have wasted their aggression, Vici Gaming are well set up to take Roshan right after Super gets an extra kill, this time on Silent.
Yeah, they're immediately going to call GG. They realize that if the fight goes like that, and that was a pretty ideal fight for Empire where they set up with their own BKB, nobody really got bursted down immediately, and you still lose the fight, then there's pretty much no hope for you. But this was definitely a game where I'm not going to say it was a throw. It wasn't that bad. Like, the lead that Empire had was never very significant, but they definitely should have made this game a lot closer.
And a lot of it comes down to the incredibly strong play from Vici Gaming, most notably in FY, getting one of the most clearest game-winning pickoffs there with the tiny toss. So
4 deaths combined between their 2 supports. 4.
Pretty insane. Vici Gaming taking game 1 in style here. We're going to have a short break. We'll toss it over to the analyst desk for them to talk about this game number 1.
Thank you very much, Cap and Blitz. And yeah, I mean, what a finish to that game. I mean, regardless of the actual game, I know at the very end, we all got pretty excited and people are honestly, what happened? And I think Winter put it pretty accurately. We had a bicycle kick in terms of, it was as cool as a bicycle kick within Dota as you might see in soccer or football, for whichever language you choose to speak, whether it's the President's American or the Queen's English. There are 2 big differences. But on that note...
So politically correct.
On that note, though, I mean, what a finish. Vici Gaming really pulling through towards the end. And throughout, I know Blitz was talking about that too, right? How we don't see Rubik picked early that often, but when you're a team like Vici Gaming, if you're that confident, you pick it. How do you feel about that game panning out, Winter?
I didn't really get to see the start of it because I was like away having a break, but in the later parts of the game, I felt that the 2 supports from Vici Gaming, absolutely, they played very well, like in team fights, and obviously they had very little deaths, like Blitz said, in total I think 4 deaths the whole game against IO Tiny. But for me, the biggest impact was the Dragon Knight. He set up a lot of kills, like with his blink, with his item selection that game, and gave his team a lot of crucial pickoffs on the Quap. Especially, I saw a few very big pickoffs with the blink. So I think the Dragon Knight was a huge deal in that match as well.
Yeah, I mean, what about you, Ben? I mean, looking at it earlier, you were one of the people saying that I think we're going to see a 2-0 one way or the other. Are you convinced at this point, Vici Gaming, the way they've played they can definitely carry on into game 2?
Yeah, I think their draft was a little bit unusual from what I would expect. And yes, it is FY drafting, but the Rubik first pick is pretty strange. And yes, they do have a fantastic Rubik player, but it's not like the Earthshaker was picked at that point, or many of the other heroes, or like that game-winning toss, which was a little incredible. But Ice was actually pretty impressive to me. Like, Empire had just taken Roshan, they were retreating, and then he hook shots both the Wisp and the Tiny, and then they turn like an Aegis advantage into a 3-hero disadvantage. And that doesn't happen without the hook shot. And, there are a lot of ways to deal with the clockwork of the game. They have, like, Wisp, they have Relocate, they also have, like, Grave and Blink on the Queen of Pain, but he still made it happen.
Yeah, definitely some impressive plays there. Now, you brought up a good point in terms of the Rubik. It's not a common thing that you have to look out for, that it's on everyone's mind that, oh, they're going to first pick Rubik. Is this something that, when you're playing against Vici Gaming, that you have to take into account, or is it just, you know what, that's one of their strengths, you just can't help it?
Well, what would you let through to ban Rubik in the first phase? Like
okay,
that?
Good.
I mean, it's
good counterpoint.
If you consider, I think there could definitely be some merit to, let's not say just Rubik, but other heroes in general. Like if the enemy team has like a really, really key hero they pick in the first phase, you can try to set up the draft so that you're trading the powerful heroes. So you're getting like 1-for-1 trade instead by not banning any of the strong heroes like Tusk, Leshrac, or whatever. But I personally don't think Rubik is that strong. I think the player is exceptionally good on it, and he makes it look easy and very, very good, but it's definitely manageable. And I actually think Empire's draft was fine. I think their approach was fine. Vici Gaming, I am definitely with Winter. I think the Dragon Knight, it's also what I said going into the draft. For me, it's going to be about, can they shut down the Queen of Pain? Because I thought they had the tools for IO Tiny. We saw the Clockwork, like Ben said, do a great job. Their supports in general controlled them very well. So the absolute key point was that Super showed up on Dragon Knight, which is one of his trademark heroes, and also a hero that doesn't really get picked much these days. So player-hero combinations, they're really sticking to some of their absolute best heroes there and made it work.
All right. Well, we do have a quick highlight towards the end of the game from Game 1, so we'll be able to replay that while we discuss a little bit more on how things went through for Vici Gaming versus Team Empire.
Vici know that Empire smoked. They're waiting on the high ground positioning with most of their heroes in a position to be able to pop their BKB. And at this point, Empire's a little bit too far behind. They've given up like a 3,000 or 4,000 gold lead and turned that into around a 10,000 gold deficit. But I feel like they really needed like their BKBs or a pipe earlier. By the time they got BKBs, they were already like in the hole after they lost that Roshan fight. And Vici's such an explosive team. You give them like 1 or 2 kills, boom, your Rax is gone. And then you let that happen one more time and you almost lost the game. As opposed to a lot of the other games that we've seen today, like I think that Vici has capitalized on the opponent's mistakes the most.
All right. Now, I know we've talked about this before, and I really enjoy talking to you guys because you guys give a lot of credit to the fact that we obviously talk in hindsight here, so it's hard to really blame players or whatnot for what we discuss. But when you bring up a point of, all right, Empire's draft seemed good, at the same time, I forget who mentioned it earlier, but things like Earthshaker were not picked when Rubik was picked. Was there a way for Empire to avoid that, or was it fine of them to stick with their plan, go with the Wisp Tiny, and then go with the Earthshaker, even though they already saw that the Rubik was there ready to steal some of those spells?
I didn't like the ES offlane.
Yes, offlane.
It's
I mean,
like,
it's something that Empire likes to do, though.
Yeah, but there's a time and a place for it. And I mean, we saw some other teams trying to use Earthshaker, and it's just easy to deal with, especially when you have like a jungle maiden. If she's always scared of he's always scared of the ganks, and she can just get away with the jungle, and your carry's free farming, you're getting so much out of that. And he doesn't, really inspire that much fear in the opponent, at least in the early 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I think it's something they're more comfortable with because in the past I've seen when they pick IO plus any carry, they would go for initiating offlane, and they would typically go for Sand King or Earthshaker. So you initiate and relocate comes in, There's this sort of threat in the map that Yoki brings to the table with those two heroes.
Yeah, I mean, Sand King, as we see in the team sheet, of course, kind of a niche pick for Team Empire. We did see it banned in the very last ban last game by Vici Gaming. Maybe it slips through this time. Maybe that's the key that Empire needs to climb back in. But let's phrase that in a different way then. When you're playing against Vici Gaming and they pick Rubik, does that also just extend the value of that Rubik first pick because now it affects, oh, shoot, do we want to pick these heroes because that's also an advantage that Rubik can have?
You definitely need to respect it more than against other teams because FY is just... I personally think there are... I can think of only 2 Rubik players in the world that are just like a tier above everyone else, and it's F1 and it's Kuroki. I just feel like they're better at their positioning. They're really good at reacting and stealing the spells at the right time. So I would say against those 2 teams, if you see it picked by Secret or by Vici Gaming, you might consider, okay, should we maybe avoid a hero like Shaker? I think Fissure was still in that game once or twice. I'm not 100% sure if I did see that, but if I didn't see that, then then the Shaker was fine, right?
Right.
The spells that
technically,
Rubik stole were not a problem for the Shaker, but it's something you can have in the back of your mind. But at the same time, if you let yourself get intimidated too much by the Rubik pick, then all of a sudden there's a lot of heroes you can't pick because, oh, well, I have a good spell and this guy's really good, so he's going to steal that spell. Oh, now I can't pick Enigma because they're definitely going to steal Black Hole every time I cast it, and he will use it better than me because he's FY. Like, then you've already lost in the draft, right? If you think that highly of your opponent, respect is great, but you need to have confidence in your own ability.
All right, very fair point. I think that's a good way to put it. We just saw Empire, kind of rallying around, saying, all right, what do we want to do? Preparing for that draft in Game 2, of course, giving the teams a little bit of time so they have things to adjust. Of course, they want to review a little bit of Game 1 at least before they jump into Game 2. From Vici now, do we think then are we going to see something different? Or, hey, it worked, this is what we do, why not go with the Rubik and then wait for Empire to pick and react? What's Vici's strategy here going into Game 2?
I think they capitalized on Wisp's positioning very, very well that game, and just do the same thing, exploit the weaknesses and play to their strengths. They actually ran around as 5 very, very well, and of course when you have a Dragon Knight, you kind of want to do that, but I feel like Empire didn't really play too much as a team. Like they're, ideally you want like the 3 heroes to initiate on someone you'd relocate in, but that only happened like a first couple of times, and then after that they're just like waiting for something to happen. And I think that Vici, they were so much more proactive about using their smokes and just getting 1 or 2 pickoffs, transitioning into a tower, and then extending their lead, and then getting the items that they needed to overcome Empire. And it was just very systematic. Whereas, yeah, that's not used to I'm not used to the Empire that's not that explosive.
All right, Syndrome, question for you. Are you still confident that staying away from my predictions is the right way to go?
What was your prediction?
Well, I said 2-0, and whichever team wins first, I think will go on, obviously.
I'm actually going to lean towards you right now because...
Didn't you do that
from boy?
Did you say 2-0 as well?
I said 2-0.
I said 1-1.
You said 1-1?
Yeah, but I saw which Vici Gaming showed up today, so... I mean, it's not fair for me to change, but...
No, it's all right.
Yeah, so you can't.
No, only one person can change, and Winter jumped on it. So.
No! This is not how games work.
Yeah, but it's good to see when FI is drafting, they are bringing back the old glimpse. Their old strats and a glimpse of their old self. That's, for me, it's really important to be able to see that in the first few games. So I think they'll be able to take the series 2-0 if they are just going to pick their stronger heroes and just do what they're good at.
Yeah, I mean, prediction jokes aside, what do you think? I mean, we've been talking about, again, Vici Gaming. It kind of depends on where they are in their state. Are they returning to their prime a little bit, or are they still in a little bit of a slump and we're not sure where they are? How do you feel, Syndrome?
Well, that Game 1 was definitely some of Vici's good play. I don't think it was the full throttle Vici Gaming, but it was up there. It was better than what we saw a month ago, that's for sure. So they've definitely improved going in. I mean, it's a very small sample size. Maybe they just had a great game. Maybe it was a fluke, but judging from what we've seen, that was very impressive. So I'm gonna stick by my 1-1, but the most likely outcome at this point is probably 2-0. But I don't think it's not a major advantage for Vici Gaming. Maybe like 60-40 going into the second game. Where I said 50-50 going in, so giving Vici a little bit more of more credit here.
Okay, fair enough. And it does sound like we have a quick little update. CDEC taking a game off of MVP, Hot 6, and it looks like we have the final moments of that game here coming up.
Game.
Wow, I mean, look at the kill score too, 26-48. And it looks like this one was over 70 minutes also.
And Winter and I looked at a net worth, and it's actually deceptive. The kill score does not really tell a story of how close this game is.
Yeah, and in one team fight, Bloodseeker did 5,000 damage towards the enemy heroes. Like 4,800 damage. That was insane.
I mean, overall, so far in TI5, we've had some long games coming down to 1 or 2 last team fights.
Is this the ending fight? Because this really doesn't look like
it doesn't look. I mean,
right now.
yeah, it would be a little bit odd if that were the case, but I guess we're about to find out. It does seem. Do believe it drags on for a little bit here. We didn't get to catch it live.
Oh my god, everyone's stuck in the cogs.
Oh, now I see why.
Yes.
All right, it's the end fight.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, hey, getting a little greedy. I mean, MVP Hot Six was probably thinking the same thing, right? Like, hey, we can end this right here. We can push back. Chased a little bit too far, got greedy, and there we go. Cedek taking that fight. And there's the GG call from MVP. So, Cedek is up in that game. And as we wrap that one up, we are going to go right into game 2 between Vici Gaming and Team Empire. So as you can see, the draft has already started, and Quap being picked up by Vici Gaming. So not going to see anything too crazy with the Rubik just yet. And the ban's pretty straightforward. The Lash, Tusk, Gyro, and Bounty Hunter this time, though, being put back into the banning phase. So priority shifting a little bit between the two teams.
I think that when Empire pick Wisp and Tiny, they actually rely on it a little bit too much and go back to the older playstyle. We've seen stacking and farming pretty prevalent throughout this tournament, but it's not as strong as it was before, with kills, kill gold being buffed and creep gold just being nerfed overall. And I think they just relied on Tiny being Superman a little bit too much without actually trying to kill and limit the opponent's farm. So, I don't think that Empire should turn to it for game number 2, although the option is still available.
Maybe you open with the IO and decide later what you want to pair with.
Like Wisp Bristle, I think would have been, because they really lack that frontliner that could actually just stand up to a DK stun. And anyone that got stunned was very likely to die, or they had to blow multiple cooldowns or ultimates to escape it.
All right, Spirit Breaker. Haven't seen SB too much today on our stream. I don't know if we've seen it in our other games. I do believe we have a couple times, but
wow, Dazzle
and
is
then Dazzle.
It's the hero of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely at the very least, if you were on the losing team, Dazzle single-handedly extended the fight quite a few times, just like we saw Wyvern do with the same thing with the Embrace. So Dazzle is going to be a little bit annoying for Vici Gaming, but that means there's also quite a few other heroes left, right, that have been in high contention throughout.
They left the Shadow Fiend as
Right.
Radiant, so that's kind of unusual. There's still Rubik if Vici want to go. Like Rubik Quap is pretty standard for them if they want to go back towards that direction, but like you mentioned, they're going to go for the Wyvern.
All right, Dazzle and Wyvern.
Yeah, both the defensive supports being snagged up by both the teams.
So Wyvern has, of course, the interesting counterplay to Spirit Breaker of being able to curse while he's charging in. It's pretty much, I don't know the cast point of Winter's Curse. It seems like it's point very low second.
There's a slight delay though, slight delay. He needs to turn his head.
Yeah, basically, that's all. So there's a play there. Of course, Spirit Breaker in the early stages generally looks to gank the lanes very early on with charge, and since all of his damage output is physical, apart from, I believe, the Greater Bash is magic damage type, right? But the rest is physical. Of course, he hits very hard, so Cold Embrace can definitely save you from those early ganks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of an open-ended Wyvern pick. I don't feel like it's a great pick just yet, but if nothing else, it protects them from what's to come for Empire.
Yeah, we've seen it vulnerable to like Lina picks, Shadow Fiend picks also. I mean, there are a lot of heroes. As long as you don't commit like, Bristle plus TA plus PA or something like that, then you're not going to have too many issues dealing with.
They actually banned the Wisp.
Yeah.
Even with the Wyvern for themselves. That's a little surprising.
Perhaps just giving a little bit of a nod to Empire to some extent, but as you were mentioning, I mean, Ben, you were saying Empire maybe relying too much on that. So that could go either way, but the Broodmother once again being panned out by Empire. Keeping note of that one, they don't want to be the ones to make that mistake.
Yeah, that's also another team I think you should always ban Brood second phase, unless you have, 2 heroes already drafted that can deal with it.
Yeah, Isis is he's very good at, I think we also wrote that on like the team profile for them, that Isis, well, we didn't write annoying offlaner, but we were talking about it. What was it? We call him disruptive offlaner.
Yes,
right?
I do
so
believe
he's
so.
really good at drawing attention to himself, annoying the supports, forcing them to spend resources on him, and Brood is like the #1 pick for that. So just good piece of advice. Just don't give it to Vici. I could definitely agree with that, man.
All right.
This game, they might actually go for Darkseid with him. They have a very good combination play with Quap and Wyvern, so that could be it's something that he likes to play as well. You could disrupt the supports a lot, waste a lot of their time, and he's really strong at making team fights happen for Vici.
Rubik ban from Vici. What do you make of that? That, to me, seems a little bit odd. Maybe not exactly what we might have
I mean, we thought that a
expected.
lot of their bans are odd. Maybe they're just like, doesn't really matter.
Like the last game as well, we were like, okay.
Yeah.
That's
it's like,
true.
They're not going to pick Lina.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I mean, last game it looked like they were kind of self-banning themselves to a certain extent.
I'm guessing they want Shaker when they ban Rubik like this.
Yeah, Darkseer's
Yeah,
out.
Darkseer, you mentioned that, Winter.
Yeah, it's very good with Wyvern and Quap, so it's not a surprise that it's getting taken out by Team Empire.
It could also just be a respect ban Rubik, actually, because Aloha Dance plays an incredible Rubik. He's actually up there, I guess. He would be like my third pick, I suppose, after
And Lil as
FY
well.
and Kuro.
And Lil as well from Virtus Pro. I think
Yeah,
the other four
Lil
guys.
is really good. There's actually so many incredible
now,
Rubik.
now that we start talking about
Maybe it's a good
Rubik
hero.
players. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like too much of a bad idea, especially because they just won a game with it. Obviously, you don't want to give them the revenge pick, so to speak, to let Empire have their showing with it.
This is a lot of information I feel like Empire are giving Vici Gaming right now. This is a pretty weak support duo. Pretty much guaranteed that these will be the supports, which also tells them that Spirit Breaker is not a support, so he's an offlaner most likely. So Vici can definitely start game planning around this, and if they're looking to put on some really early aggression with their secondary support, I think they might just be able to get away with it, because Empire can only counterplay. They can't really put pressure themselves. Maybe you just pick a greedy carry, like PL.
I think Phantom Lancer is good because
PL
Phantom Lancer is great versus Spirit Breaker and Disruptor.
Absolutely.
You can dodge their spells with Doppelganger.
And Hao is incredible on that hero. I think it's like when a lot of teams weren't really picking the new PL, Vici Gaming were like first picking it because they were so confident in Hao's ability. So I think it's definitely the most likely third or fourth pick here for Vici Gaming.
All right. Well, Vici is running down their clock quite a bit, and
That's something new. I think that's a first in this event.
Yeah, definitely on the mainstream. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the first throughout the event. Okay, well, I mean, filling out their support roles for sure.
That's really odd, but because usually you have Venge because you want to... I guess it's good versus Spirit Breaker when he's focusing... I mean, they have Wyvern for that anyway.
Yeah.
So, but they're on Dire, so Venge does serve her purpose on the Roshan factor, I guess.
So what if you Winter's Curse Spirit Breaker when he's charging in? And then so that Dazzle can't grave him, you swap Dazzle into Spirit Breaker, so he starts hitting him instead.
It's still not.
It's very far-fetched.
But it's a possibility.
But it's a possibility.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
Watch it happen 4 times in a row.
That would be pretty epic. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with seeing that 4 times
I would
in a
like to
row.
see that though, actually. And situational play.
Right now, they don't have enough physical damage to really warrant a vengeful spirit pick. So
They still haven't picked their carry.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I mean, quite a few options, of course, for carries specifically.
They might actually go for, like Tide Hunter because they banned Rubik, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like it's just a random thought that came up to my mind. And they have a lot of minus armor going on with Tide and Bench for the Roshan.
Huh. That's another angle we haven't talked about. Focusing on what else you can do for the Roshan. Ember coming back.
Here we go again.
Lots of Ember yesterday, earlier in the day too.
Ember Dazzle, too.
Yeah, Ember Dazzle too. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that has, as you mentioned earlier, that's what's allowing Ember to really reappear quite a bit.
They don't really have any direct lockdown for the Ember. Like the Venge stun is sometimes not that reliable when he has the Remnant behind, so they don't have good tools against the Ember right now.
Until Wyvern ult.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the only one.
Yeah, and it's not.
But it's not that
reliable.
instant. Yeah, it's not reliable. It's not easy to get it on the Ember if he has a Remnant behind.
So just, 5 seconds left. I guess by the time I finish my question, we're gonna find out. I was about to ask if do they share their carry or
The disruptive offlaner.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Undying
coming out.
They actually have really poor tools for dealing with an Undying offlane, I think.
Yeah.
Disruptor and Dazzle
really
are pretty
difficult.
weak. And Ember, they could possibly win a Wyvern Undying lane against this Tri-lane, I think. That's how weak the Empire safe lane is. Or if they run an aggressive Tri-lane, it's just hands down a win for Vici Gaming.
Right.
And they have the options right now, because Queen of Pain could technically safe lane and they can last pick a mid. Hao, I believe, does play a really good Queen of Pain, if that is what they plan to do. Or I don't think you want to put PL one-on-one against Spirit Breaker. I don't think that's a nice lane to
No,
play. So.
I don't think that's a good idea. So like Spirit Breaker will be able to bully PL in the lane if that happens.
So Vici looking for carry or a carry to fill out their lineup, and Empire banning out that PL. Just still didn't want to deal with it at all, not leaving that possibility open.
They actually did have the counter pick with the Ember, so. But playing it safe.
Yeah, just again, I mean, that's what we've seen generally, right, with last bans. Is at that point, just play whatever you think is safest. You both people or both teams rather have relatively shown your hands at this point.
Finally, the
Draft.
ban. Fifth.
That's another, very safe ban away. Don't want to take that chance. So what more does
Because
Okay.
like Spirit Breaker's gonna charge someone on Empire. The Ember catches someone. They need a follow-up damage because Dazzle and Disruptor doesn't do damage as supports. So they need a cord that deals instant damage, something like a nukes as hard as a Zeus.
Spirit Brothers.
That's good
A Spirit
damage.
Breaker
Yeah, that's
and
still
two
good
spirits.
damage.
a Spirit Breaker and 2 spirits? You're right.
And it's a resolution hero as well. But there are 2 defensive supports on Vici Gaming side that could deal with a Storm Spirit initiation very well.
I was thinking Empire could have actually tried in this game to go for a Quaso-X Invoker, and that could have been a
I
really
always
interesting pickup.
liked the Invoker for Empire, but then I don't think they scale well enough.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
with
could
the
be.
Storm, it's like you're more secured if the game goes late because you don't have last pick and Vici Gaming have the last pick. And being the team that you can't pick last, so you tend to focus on picking someone that goes later in the game.
Yeah, and
That
then
is not what I expected.
Yeah, because
Seeker.
Rupture doesn't do anything to Ember and Storm when they are flying around.
Yeah.
right.
They're invulnerable. And even in Sleight of Fist, you're also invulnerable. So
Yeah.
there's actually plenty of ways of dealing with it. It is great against Spirit Breaker. If you
Right, I
rupture
was
while
just
he's
about to
charging
say,
it,
like, is that maybe
well-
just the go-to right now for Vici Gaming? Is just, hey, Spirit Breaker, your charge relatively not going to be useful because we have all these ways to deal with it.
This makes me think they wanted PL, because I don't think this is the optimal pick, and it looked like they were just running out of time.
That's
I think
true.
they could have easily picked it over like Venture
Yeah,
on time,
I mean, they
though.
could have picked the PL a
They
lot
could have easily
earlier,
picked
though.
PL.
That's true.
Maybe the Embers pick kind of scared them a little bit. It's like,
Yeah, it
well,
could
they
be.
can even draft one more PL counter after this. So
Oh, that's true. All right. Well, Vici Gaming, perhaps they were pushed into the corner a little bit, but at the end, taking that Bloodseeker, something we weren't expecting too much. At the same time, Empire, do you guys feel a little bit better about Empire's draft in game 2?
Well, I honestly think they've been drafting fine in both games. So yeah.
Okay, so
It's
the draft
about
is
who plays
not-
better.
All right. Well, we'll find out. Game 2, Empire. Can they tie it up, or is Vici Gaming gonna run away with the 2-0?
Allow him to get mobile on the map.
He's
It's-
strong versus Spirit Breaker as well, for obvious
It's-
reasons.
Yeah, it's good against both the supports as well because those aren't inherently tanky supports. And I actually think Bloodseeker isn't terrible against Storm because in some ways, if your entire team is low and the Bloodseeker can just right-click you out of the fight, then it's probably not too bad.
All right. Well, of course, we want to welcome in everybody who's joining us now on the main stream. Vici Gaming facing up against Team Empire. Game number 2 going to be casted by myself, Dota Capitalist, as well by Blitz, who is a Storm Spirit master. So as the laning phase is about to come to fruition here, and we're not going to be seeing any fighting over bounty runes, at least doesn't seem like it, Blitz, drop them 7k knowledge bombs. How does this go between Bloodseeker and Storm Spirit?
I've only played this matchup like 5 times. I think, especially with the new Bloodseeker. I don't even play Storm that much. Only like 350 games or something like that.
So I hype up your incredibly good Storm Spirit analysis, and you lead with, I've only played this matchup 5 times.
Yeah, well, because Bloodseeker in general isn't really a mid-hero that you see often.
No.
But I think this is in response to what everybody's showing. But if Resolution gets this bounty rune, he should be fine because he's going to bring himself a salve, is what I would imagine. Yeah, he's doing that right now. And then the key here is that Bloodseeker, though, is so dangerous because if your off lane gets low or your safe lane gets slow at all, like one of the supports gets traded off, then the Bloodseeker just runs at you and you can't really do much. Like even the Remnant's not going to deter you very much. And so I think that's part of the reason why you can get away with doing this dual lane, right? Because you want to keep that top lane as full to HP as possible. And if you notice that Super's gone for both a Quelling Blade and a Poor Man's Shield, so it's really hard for the Storm to deny him very much. So what you actually have to do is whenever Resolution has a chance, he can't really... You can't just right-click the Bloodseeker non-stop because you're not going to trade efficiently because he'll just CS in front of your face. But the key is that you have to actively deny, and in the time period where Super can't get CS or denies, you have to right-click him as much as possible. Like you notice that Resolution is moving up on him constantly, and now he's going to Remnant, and he's forcing him away. You see that?
Yep.
And so Super now is in a position where he doesn't have enough HP to fight against this.
Oh my god, he's almost going to die here.
Storm has terrible move speed, but you notice that is that every single time, instead of going for one or the other, he pushes up with the wave, and it makes it difficult for Super to do what he wants, which is just sit in the middle of the wave. So now he has to ferry himself regen, and now there's going to be a full wave or two where Resolution can pretty much do whatever he wants, and once you get the bottle with Storm Spirit, you're pretty much dandy in this lane. Like, you can actually kill the Bloodseeker at a pretty reasonable time.
Yeah, this is a very momentum-based 1 versus 1, right? Like, once somebody gets a slight edge on the other, like, for example, the Storm Spirit with that last play damaging the Bloodseeker and bringing him low, he's then able to just aggressively push him out of lane, and the Bloodseeker can't rely. Now, bottom lane, Silent's going to be dropping low, will end up going down for the first blood. Winter Wyvern and the Undying. We're already putting so much pressure on this Ember Spirit, but now they're able to pick up an early kill on him. Good setup for Vici Gaming already, it seems, for
Super's
some
dead.
of their lanes, but... Yep, Super going to be run out. Resolution finds that one, so even up that kill score 1-1.
That's even more significant as a mid laner. Then you don't really care if you get first blood or not, but the fact that you're able to solo kill the enemy mid means you're going to get a full level and experience over him, and you'll just get boots faster at the same time. And so that's probably even more worth it than getting the first blood is for Vici Gaming.
The charge comes out. Fenrir. Oh, 17%. Fenrir gets bashed one time.
No, he's
a
not gonna
second
get bashed
time will
again.
ensure the kill.
Ice Frog.
Another right click. That's all they really need. Fenrir trying to juke his way through the trees, but they don't even need the bash. They get 2 more right clicks, and that will ensure the death. And Hao's now going to be pushed away by Yoki. Of course, the Bloodseeker is getting advantage out of Always Want to Fly being quite low. In fact, Hao, whoa, there's comes a quick bash out. Hao, he's got to be real careful here. He has to make the blink away, but now the charge is there. Hao, he's done for. Another right click, and of course, a bash to finish things off. It wasn't even needed, but Yoki likes to end things on style here as he gets a double kill. Back over to the middle lane, we watch Super drop quite low, as again, he just misses out on one of those right clicks and takes that remnant damage, and he's immediately dropping to very low HP.
The thing that's scary about the Bloodseeker, this is like the last thing I want to say about the matchup, because I don't want to just give an introductory course to playing mid, but every single time that Super misses a CS and he's in that position, it pretty much puts him within the kill threshold of the Storm Spirit, so he has to be really careful.
Yeah,
every single time he comes up.
Yeah, pretty much every single time he goes for a Blood Rage and challenges the Storm Spirit when he remnants down in order to get that CS, he cannot afford to miss that CS. Otherwise, he's going to be in some serious trouble. His resolution is. The silence has already been laid out. Super is able to run him down. Another right click, bottle up, resolution. He's good for one more. FY finally is able to get the kill and will be able to survive on top of that. FY gets away and now makes it a clean 3-3. Notice also that FY chose to go for the 2 levels of Arctic Burn very early on and not a level of Cold Embrace. Very offensive build by him.
Yeah, I think going for that is just overall better right now in this situation because he's trying to get aggressive on all the lanes and he wants to help out Super. He has to. In this type of situation where you're just leaving your Bloodseeker to try to catch up by himself, it's never going to happen because there's 0 kill potential from Super on the Resolution. If Resolution gets ruptured, then he'll just roll away.
Right.
And the silence will never hit. So he has to go before Resolution hits level 6. And Resolution has been playing really aggressively in this lane because he's trying to establish dominance. So it's just such a good play by FY to come at that timing. And he might even hit another really sick timing if he goes right now before Resolution actually hits this level 6. Because he needs these 2 creeps. Of course, there's 0 way for him to know that, but this isn't actually going to succeed because he's about to hit 6 off of these 2.
Yeah, so Resolution is good now. FY, knowing that, will now return back to the bottom lane where they may still be able to find an opening against that Ember Spirit.
Yeah, I think this is the correct play, just to apply as much pressure as you can to Silent. And this is the strength of Undying as a hero because you can pretty much put him with any support and you can contest. And Ember's already a hero that doesn't really have the best stats. So this might actually mean Silent's going to go down again. He has no idea about the invis. Tombstone's dropped too.
Oh, they're going to be able to catch him. The kinetic field trying to give Silent enough room. The zombies are still chasing him down. Good shot, Grave from Always Want to Fly. And Silent will survive as he gets both health potioned and a nice little heal out. They're quick to be able to stop Super. He tries to take advantage of that low HP hero by immediately rupturing up Resolution. Resolution just runs himself away, and Ball Lightnings as well. Bottom lane, the action, yep, they're going to be able to get the glimpse back on FY. They immediately try and target him, Ice, knowing that he doesn't have a Tombstone, is not going to be able to really threaten the supports that much. Well, he gets one, and maybe he'll get a second one.
2.
Always Want to Fly. He's going to be dove down into Decay, gets it. Double kill for Ice, and now Super Super's here as well. He doesn't have a Rupture. Silent does not have a Remnant either, as he's only level 4, but it seems the Chains was enough to stop Super's aggression.
This is pretty sick by Empire as well. If you notice that both of their supports carried around salves, like everyone's carrying around salves so that the Bloodseeker doesn't just run at them at supersonic speed, and it's a pretty good play, but Fenrir might be in trouble here if Resolution decides to go on this, and yeah, he's charged.
There is no way he gets away from this one with both Resolution and Yoki right there, and Fenrir, no help really around whatsoever. So a free pick off for them, 5-5. Very even game number 2 so far anyway. Is any team really picking up an advantage outside of the kills? It seems Vici Gaming, slight one in both experience and gold. Where's that really coming from? Is it just the, it seems to be the Undying. The big change-up factor is the Spirit Breaker Dazzle can't put the same kind of pressure on Silent to slow him down. As you can see, already the pressure is there as Silent is now dealing with Tombstone and double slows out from the Winter Wyvern. Again, Zombies trying to chase him down. They need the heal desperately, but always want to fly. Just a bit too late on that TP. And now Aloha Dance is the one who needs some trouble, but Ice 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 has overextended himself. Dies as he dives into that Tier 1 tower, and Aloha Dance will be okay. Health potions up, and the Bloodseeker is not on his way this time around.
Yeah, he had 700 move speed at one point, and so you're definitely seeing why they opted to go for the salves, but at the same time, Super's still heading down here, and one hit will pretty much drag them into red territory, and he should go at around more than haste, and so FY is going to... doesn't have the mana for this, but they can definitely dive if they want to.
Oh, they're very stuck. That Silent's going to be able to hit Aloha Dance in the background. Always want to fly is dropped low. There is the charge out. Yoki's actually been ruptured up. He doesn't seem to care, though. He completes his charge against FY, but now he's going to pay for it. He's surrounded by 3 different heroes. Good Shadow Wave, but that's not going to be anywhere near enough. Vici Gaming pick up yet another kill. The Resolution was on his way, but he realizes that without the Spirit Breaker, they can't really force this fight, nor should they anyway. It's up against an Undying. That hero is notorious for being able to win 10-minute fights.
Yeah, there's actually no reason for him to go down there, because at the same time, he doesn't have enough mana. He actually varies himself a Clarity, which I'm a pretty big fan of, because you don't want to have to Bottle Crow at this phase of the game, but you also want to be able to participate in fights.
Man, they do not stop trying to shut down Silent. He is just wanting to pick up his level 6. He's just like Storm Spirit in that regard, in that before he picks up level 6, he's very susceptible to ganks, and Vici Gaming are putting all the pressure on him, and Empire aren't even getting a good trade-off. Like, Vici Gaming are 5-manning down this bottom lane, but because the Resolution keeps on hesitating between bouncing back and forth between bottom lane and middle, he's not actually farming up, free farming up the middle lane, and nobody is farming up that top lane. So Vici Gaming are getting free kills and a free tower with no trade-off, seemingly.
If Resolution had just farmed during that entire time, he would have been about 450 gold more in net worth than everybody else, and that would have been worth it. But this ward alone just ruined them, and that ward actually spotted the ward going down for them, so they're probably going to grab a sentry. I'd imagine it's flying in on the courier, yes. And so this ward has served 2 functions. It stopped 2 ganks from Resolution, because as soon as he started moving down, they went away. They have to have some knowledge that it's there, and they're going to get the D-ward off of this. So now they've just lost complete control of their jungle, and they've lost their carry multiple times. And so now Resolution, a lot comes down to him. Like, he actually has to have a phenomenal game, because the rest of his lanes just haven't succeeded enough. There's just been a little bit too much pressure from this Undying.
Bounty Rune, and it seems Resolution is going to try and use that bottle refill to shut down Hao here in this top lane. He TP'd up to try and farm, but he knows that there's a good chance that he can very easily be soloed out between the Spirit Breaker having his level 6 and Storm Spirit being missing from that middle lane. The rest of Vici Gaming are actually now coming to counter any potential aggression against Hao, but it seems Empire not going to be taking the bait. 2 of their heroes have already run back.
Yeah, they should just get out, because nobody's at bottom. This ward alone keeps Silent feeling relatively safe. The mid gank is kind of pointless, right? Because nobody showed themselves mid. So it's just a process of elimination, where they just assume that they have to be at that top lane, especially since Hao's been pushing out this wave. And now that all 4 members are going to show themselves, I think the correct move is Resolution goes mid, Silent splits up bottom as much as they can, and then just farm out the jungle as often as you can. Like, if I'm Resolution here, put as much pressure as I can mid, wait for the TPs to come, and then just rotate to the jungle.
Already a TP is coming in, though, from the Winter Wyvern, so it seems like Vici Gaming are actually going to defend this Tier 1 tower and take the top one at the same time. as FY, especially over this copse of trees, is going to be able to get in a position for really early Winter's Curse to set things up. But he's actually just trying to throw things down. Now goes for the Winter's Curse. Resolution held in, and a silence gets laid down. A tombstone is unable to be dropped. Aloha Dance is going to start running himself back. Fenrir's the target of Yoki's aggression as he charges straight forward. Now pops the ultimate, trying to go and lock down Super. As Resolution comes forward, they're trying to get the last bit of damage on Super, who's super fast, and he will be able to get away from Empire as the low HP heroes give him enough move. Oh, Silent even came in for a remnant, but not able to get it. It's on the side. Hauk makes his introduction, able to get at least the Spirit Breaker. Always want to fly. Very smart. Shallow Grave and TP out.
Yeah, not a bad trade, actually, because they don't lose too much off of that. I think they killed Fenrir and they traded out Yoki, but he's not that integral to this game. It's more important that Silent just catches up in whatever way he can, because he's sitting at a pretty abysmal 36 CS. He's got 3 deaths. You can't really blame him, though, because of the type of lane that he was against. And things are looking pretty bad for Empire, but Resolution still has the highest net worth in the game, which is pretty reassuring. And at the same time, one of the high net worths on the enemy team is Ice 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 playing this Undying, and so you're not too worried about it. Because remember when Vega had the overfarmed Undying? Like, the net worth doesn't translate as well as other heroes.
Sure. Undying is going to go for that added utility, which is pretty usual for an Undying. He picks up not only the Arcane Boots, but will be going for the mech. Inevitable Guardian Greaves, but usually you have some couple other items picked up before you complete the set. FY, he's got himself that Soul Ring coming in, so a lot of spam is going to be heading the way. And this is one of the things I really love about the Winter Wyvern. You're going to see that Empire, they're presumably going to be staying away from a lot of 5 versus 5 team fights, right? More focus on split pushing and trying to go for pickoffs. This means that Winter Wyvern, he can potentially sit so far back when they go for the split push and his team is pushing down, 4-manning a tower and there's no contest from Team Empire. He can actually go back and pseudo-defend some of that split pushing by sitting in the back and spamming out Splinter Blast.
Yeah, you're actually seeing that happen right now as FI rotates to this bottom lane, and it looks like with How there, they want to try to go on Silent, but they don't actually know that Aloha Dance is here prepared with his ultimate, and so things might be a little bit tricky here, but I mean, I'm just a little bit worried right now because Empire aren't going to have a lot of map presence because Resolution's opting to go for the Bloodstone, which is really common. You don't really have a lot of farm on your Ember Spirit, and that means if you have 2 cores that are essentially not providing anything for you in fights, you kind of have to avoid, and it means that the supports especially are going to get super underfarmed. Like, just look at the difference. FY is able to just kind of walk into lanes, throw out the Splinter Blast to farm, and he doesn't feel worried at all because he knows that Silent and Resolution are playing the catch-up game. And the reason for that is, once you're behind as a core, you've got one of 2 options. You either go for the safe farm or you try to all in to get a kill. And how often do you see a professional team just all in to try to get a kill to catch somebody back into the game?
Mm-hmm.
It's just too chancy.
Team Empire. Silent's just playing so passively, and it's because he has to. I mean, Vici Gamer have already showed that they're willing to be super aggressive in shutting down the Ember Spirit. In fact, Vici Gaming are now just taking the jungle away from the Ember Spirit. Not even that is an option, as Tombstone being laid out by Ice 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 to farm that away. Empire is still getting a better deal out of the current farm route, though, as they are pushing in both middle and top lane, while Vici Gaming kind of 4-manning in the enemy jungle, not much else.
Yeah, and this is what, if you're Empire, and especially if you're Resolution, you want this to happen right now. Because Vici does have control of your jungle, but at the same time, they're not taking objectives very quickly. And so usually the trade-off is, as a Stormshare player, you farm out as much as you can, and then you wait for that one big fight once you have Bloodstone, and then everything changes, right? Mm-hmm. But when that typically happens, you're usually behind a lot of objectives, so it's really worrisome. But Vici, in their haste to try to clear out the jungle, split up the farm, they're not actually pressuring anything. And so they actually have to get around the map and try to do something. And they might go for this mid tower, but again, they're simply trading 1 for 1. And if you're a team that potentially has the better late game, like Empire does, then you want this to happen. Like, Resolution's going to get a free tower out of it, and now he's only 11, or actually he's quite a bit away off. He's like 2k off of his Bloodstone. You're kind of okay with that type of trade.
Vici Gaming are well set up to be able to catch anybody who tries to TP to defend. the middle tower. But I feel like it's very obvious what Vici Gaming are doing here. I mean, Team Empire is still 4-manning up in that top lane because they know Vici Gaming have been spending all their time in the jungle, even if they, like, the smoke may come as a surprise to Team Empire, but they should know that Vici Gaming are still around that area. Now, as Vici Gaming start backing themselves up, let's see if they actually catch anybody from Team Empire who maybe lingers a bit too long.
Yeah, Resolution just TP's mid, continuing to farm out the map, just wait things out as long as possible. But now the scary thing is that Hao is going to have an Orchid for the next fight. And that means that Empire almost always have to dodge fights now. You only wait for Vici Gaming to overextend because you just don't have the personnel or the amount of farm necessary to get into fights. And FY with this Invis rune is going to be quite scary too. But luckily for Empire, nobody's near him. But Vici Gaming have just been so good about invading the jungle at all times. I'm actually really impressed by how FY has been playing this entire game and maybe this series.
FY not able to find that opening, and seems a little birdie seemed to have taken Silent off. The fact that Vici Gaming were coming for a gank, Yoki is going to be the target of a rupture. The Splinter Blast doesn't land. Yoki managed to dodge the silence at the very least. Now the Disruptor actually drops the ultimate and actually controlling Vici Gaming a bit. Yoki has that Shallow Grave protecting him for now. Goes for the charge out as the Rupture fades and almost got away. But now the Winter Wyvern locks him down with the Winter's Curse. It's a lot expended for just the Spirit Breaker kill, but they will get it in the end as Yoki no longer has an escape.
Yeah, but meanwhile, at this bottom tower, Resolution just continues to play for the split push game. He shouldn't be afraid of this because he knows that the Winter's Curse has been used, so he actually just goes for the tower in front of their faces, but he has to get out for this, and he should be able to.
Roshan, don't tell me! Oh, he bashed him up!
Oh, they know too because of the Bloodseeker! This is disastrous! He's just trying to suicide now!
Resolution dies just before Hao gets there. Now Roshan's pissed! He just bashes up Hao as well! Rosh, have some mercy. These teams don't want to fight you yet.
All right, I'm not biased towards any team, but I'm biased towards that hero, and that hurt to watch. Oh, that was painful. I saw it coming, too, is the thing. You get that ominous feeling. You're like, that was a sick play. He grips the Winter Wyvern, and then, of course, he gets bashed by Roshan at the last second. He was gone, too. Oh, that's so unfortunate for him.
Silent grabs the regeneration rune. The rest of the team is heading up to the top lane. They want a free pickoff on Fenrir with a charge there. Low farther away from the tier 2 tower. This essentially means there's the rotation from Vici Gaming isn't going to be nearly as powerful. They'll still get Fenrir, and it doesn't look like there's going to be a response from Vici Gaming in time. So well played by Team Empire, finding a small opening there.
That's their first successful gank.
Yes.
In quite some time. And so they're going to be really satisfied with that because, again, all it is opening up the map as much as possible.
They're going to go for Super next. He's already being charged out. Aloha Dance does have his ultimate. Sure enough, going all in for Super. The Cold Embrace is there, though, and Super will be kept alive. Now Yoki needs to make an escape. He's got 4 seconds until the TP. Oh, he's just going to try and TP out the damage.
Oh, is he there?
Not enough. Spirit Breaker.
The burn. The Orchid burn is enough to kill him.
It kills him inside of the fountain, just barely.
Oh, that was so sick by Vici Gaming to turn that around. That Cold Embrace was perfectly placed. They just didn't have enough to kill Super. And that Orchid at the same time, the presence of mind for how to drop that was absolutely fantastic. And a good turnaround for them. That was just Empire being a little bit too greedy. Like they should have been satisfied with getting the Vengeful Spirit, but they thought that Vici Gaming wouldn't foresee the second game coming, which they were correct. It just happened that Vici was all there. And they're going to be prepped to take this tier 1 tower.
Team Empire are still aggressively pushing forward in order to get as much farm as humanly possible. Silent is pushing into the tier 2 tower. Resolution is quick to try and push out that bottom lane as well. So they are making good use of the space that the Spirit Breaker created when he died. As we can now see that Bloodstone is up, and Silent will start building the first couple of damage items working towards that Battle Fury.
Yeah, for a Storm, 20-minute battle or Bloodstone isn't too terrible considering that they don't have an overwhelming tower advantage or anything like that. I think it's a little bit slower than you would like, especially if you just decide to go for treads into the Magic Wand bottle standard setup. It's probably an item that you would prefer to have about 2 or 3 minutes faster. But especially with that Roshan death, like if that had happened, he probably would have had it at 18 minutes. But this is really typical now. You're going to see that the Spirit Breaker showed himself top, so they don't see this gank coming. And the Storm picks up a Bloodstone, so they want to be able to get this kill. But Vici are completely prepared for it. Hao is coming in Invis behind them. This Orchid is just going to absolutely ruin this fight for them.
Oh, it really is. Hao starts popping the smoke.
They have no idea.
And And Resolution, he's kind of jumping around a little bit. I feel like they know something is up. And sure enough, there goes the reveal of How. He throws the Orchid on to Always Want to Fly. Jump back in, though. Resolution, whoa! He actually tried to go for How there with the control of the Disruptor ultimate, but that was a bad idea. Empire may lose multiple heroes. Resolution, there it is. The Winter's Curse comes out from the Winter Wyvern to make sure that TP is not successful. All he's left is with the suicide play. Of course, Silent farming right underneath the nose of Vici Gaming because he knows he can. But it also is pretty poor trade-off for Team Empire, as Vici Gaming are now going to be able to take Roshan on top of the kills they got.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. There's just been a lot of uncharacteristic moves by Empire because they knew that the Queen of Pain was invis. When he dropped the Remnant on the ground and it got blown up, he knew. He started to run away, and then they saw that the fight was just not possible, especially when the Cold Embrace went on How. But then he re-engaged with his mana and just used his entire pull to try to get out in front of FY, who had the Winter's Curse up. And so what was originally meant to be a free Bloodstone charge for the Storm Spirit using that smoke, all of a sudden just completely turns around on them.
And we now have an Aegis for our Queen of Pain. Why do you think the Queen of Pain is chosen instead of Bloodseeker? I can see some merits to both.
Because if you're a Queen of Pain and you only have an Orchid, actually
Aloha
a top
Dance.
first. Aloha Dance should be going down for this.
Yep, there goes the ultimate, and the last right click is there as well.
Yeah, as I was saying though, the Queen of Pain, if she just goes for the straight Orchid build and you have 4 levels of pull, you can actually do around 1300 damage because her armor, if you notice, is not that great. It's only 5 armor, 1100 HP. So if she's missing any sort of health, then the Storm if you max distance jump, you can almost always kill the Queen of Pain with just the Orchid. And so he can't do that to the Bloodseeker, though, because the Bloodseeker has a lot of armor. He can just run away, zip out. He's got 1400 health. It's really unlikely, right? Mm-hmm. But it's pretty much just to secure that the Queen of Pain can't get opened up across from max distance.
Fair enough. 22 minutes in, and 8-14. Vici Gaming obviously holding a bit of a lead after those last couple of events. A 3,000 gold lead, 1,500 experience. Of course, a pretty drastic thing is Resolution. First attempt they go for in order to get a Bloodstone charge, and he has to suicide, meaning he's only left with 5 now. Pretty bad position to be in. It's always the worst feeling when you pick up a Bloodstone and you die immediately.
It really is, because that's an item you just spent 20 minutes building up to, and then you just lose about 3 kills worth of charges in one setup. So it's not the worst thing in the world because he did manage to get the suicide off, but it's more that when you're trying to come back into a game, you're hoping that you're stacking up Bloodstone charges so that your buyback timer gets reduced, you have more mana regen. There's just a lot of benefits to having it stack up, obviously, but Vici Gaming correctly realized they have such an advantage right now with the Aegis and the Orchid, and there's no defensive item picked up on the Storm, and so they're going to try to march down for this in Resolution, trying to split the map, but Always Want to Fly, going to go down to this kill. Hao's got the Orchid ticking off on him as well, and that's just going to be a dominating spree for him.
Now, Silent, meanwhile, I was talking about the Battlefield build, but it should have been kind of tipped off with the early Orchid of the Queen of Pain and Silent still trying to play catch-up. He goes for the Asha into the Manta to be able to dispel that Orchid's silence. Very smart pickup, especially since the stats will still help him out. And hopefully give him enough effectiveness that they can actually play some 5 versus 5, because it seems like Vici Gaming are not going to make it a question. It seems Empire are going to be forced into a fight sometime soon.
My concern right now for Empire is that even though they're going for the correct item choices, like Silent's going to go for the Manta, is he even going to get it close to near enough for it to actually matter? Because Hao just picked up a BKB and an Orchid. I really like this item build from Hao. He's punishing both the Storm Spirit and the Ember Spirit with one item pickup, and then by going for the Black King bar, it just allows him to continue to snowball, and there's nobody really on Empire that's really going to slow him down or scare him, because he can pop his BKB for most things. If he gets charged by the Spirit Breaker, then FY's there with the Winter's Curse or the Glimmer Cape. Like, there's just too many options right now for him.
Vici Gaming centering up to try and push uphill. They still have that Aegis available. At the same time, the top lane is pushing into the Tier 3 tower. Seems like a shame to waste that kind of farm, but they still want to go for it. Already jumping in, the Orchid being placed onto Resolution, but not a whole lot of damage being placed on him. In fact, if anything, Hao has taken probably 10 times the amount he dished out. Silent is going to run himself back a little bit, afraid of that rupture. Meanwhile, the rest of Empire now going to be initiated. It's Hao. Hits a pretty good Sonic Wave, but both supports stay alive for a little while longer. In fact, Hao, now locked down by Yoki, is going to be losing his Aegis. Resolution, though, immediately caught out by that Winter's Curse. He goes down, but but so too does the Queen of Painfall. Now, Resolution comes back, and he desperately needs some kills in order to make that Bloodstone worth it. The charge comes in, bumps back to Ice Ice Ice, now controlled by Resolution as well. Needs another right click, and he'll get him as well as Super. Somebody right click somebody. There goes the Undying. There goes the Bloodseeker as well. And to wrap things up, it is going to be FY dying as well. A great fight for Team Empire, as Vici Gaming maybe just forced it a bit too much under the guise that Aegis would give them the advantage.
Honestly, the Spirit Breaker just went to town on the Queen of Pain, and at the same time, you don't really have, if you look at Vici Gaming's lineup, what do they lack? They don't really have the best way to assault the tower, especially when your Bloodseeker doesn't have a BKB. There's no real safe way for him to just hit the tower, and so they had to send Hao first, but they try to get aggressive first, and they managed to pick up a kill on the Storm Spirit, yes, but you don't have the best way to assault, and you definitely don't have the best way to sustain, and so Empire able to clean that up pretty nicely. Resolution with a well-timed buyback, but still doesn't have even Bloodstone charges, and Empire is still on the back foot. But a few more fights like that, and you could suddenly see Empire start to take control again.
Absolutely. I mean, the top 2 net worth on the board is both the Bloodseeker and the Queen of Pain, but the next 3 is Storm Spirit, the Ember Spirit, and you're seeing the power of the Spirit Breaker. His offlane, his interaction in these team fights as an offlaner is so much greater and will be much greater than the Undying. As you said, he kind of drops off as time goes on. 25 minutes is probably the peak effectiveness as an Undying, and every single fight after this is going to be getting a little bit weaker.
Yeah, if you remember in the beginning, he was like 2nd in net worth, and since then he's actually fallen off quite a bit because it's just the nature of the hero. You really rely on getting those early fights off. You want to take those fights where you're in 2v3 situations where you have one support backing you up so that you get the most out of your kill gold and assist gold. But eventually, you don't have the best farming mechanic. You can't really rely on the jungle. It's just pretty much non-stop fights for you. So Undying is almost always going to naturally just fall off when it relates to farm. And Silent does have a Manta style now. He was quite far away from it beforehand, but manages to pick up one. And Yoki has to be careful. He should be able to TP out of this, and Empire just continuing to split the map and save time as much as they can because they realize Vici Gaming have to wait for the next Roshan before they go for anything, especially with how that last fight went. You're going to wait for a BKB and probably a BKB on Super and probably the next Aegis before you do anything. So how long do you think that is? The next 3 or 4 minutes at the very least, where Resolution can just continue to get farm, where Silent continues to catch up.
Now, I love you, Blitz, but I'm going to try my hand a little bit of Storm Spirit analysis.
Shoot.
So the Storm Spirit versus Queen of Pain matchup. The Storm Spirit, when he gets Orchid, it's Orchid versus Orchid. The Storm Spirit is superior solely because of the fact he has a disable, right? Yoki. All right, Witch's Curse being used there. A good ultimate from Aloha Dance. Well, maybe with the Ember Spirit coming in. Oh my god, he's going to be able to jump in. Yoki's still alive with that BKB. Now with the ultimate coming in for the Queen of Pain, they finally finish him off, but it's still Empire making a big-time win here as they take out 3 and potentially a 4th. Ice 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 is stuck in the middle. They address the tombstone, bring Ice 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 back for more punishment. TP out attempted by him, but he's not going to make it out. And Empire, a huge turnaround here. It's now 4 kills for 1. I was like looking at it, Aloha Dance, I was like, oh, that's a great ultimate. I just don't see them being able to do much more. But with Silent coming in and Yoki surviving for so long thanks to that BKB, they just tore Vici Gaming a new one.
That fight was absolutely insane. I think Vici Gaming really overestimated how strong they were because if you notice, that's a team that got a little bit too overconfident, and you can judge that by the fact that they went in 1 by 1, assuming that they were going to kill the Spirit Breaker, get out relatively cleanly, but Aloha Dance's ultimate and his kinetic field, it bought way too much time for Yoki to get everything off, and then the rest of the team arrives, the cavalry comes, and now you've got 11 Bloodstone charges on Resolution.
Yeah, and that's just insane. Plus, he's going to be able to have that Orchid now. So, and level 3 Ball Lightning as well. Can you explain to me real quick why he chose to go for Orchid rather than the BKB?
Yeah, for sure. So typically, you're going to see the Storm Spirits almost always nowadays go for the Bloodstone, the Treads. And you might want to say, okay, why doesn't he go for a Yule Scepter or something of that nature? It's mainly because the Winter Wyvern is always going to be an issue.
Yep.
Like, if he goes for a BKB, he's just going to get Winter's Cursed. You run out the timer, and you're going to have difficulties no matter what. And so it's just better to go for the Orchid. So you zip past the Queen of Pain, and hopefully your team engages on her at the same time. You go for the Winter Wyvern, and you continue to roll and make it difficult for the Queen of Pain to get on top of you. But if you don't have the Orchid, you actually don't do a lot of damage. for one, and you don't have the attack speed, which is really underrated on Storm. So this is almost always the build that you're going to have to see. Because even if it might be a little bit more efficient to go for the sheep, you just don't do a lot of damage with it.
Right.
It's
Vici
almost all
Gaming.
in-ish.
Vici Gaming now centered up around the Roshan pit, though that one's not really up for another 10 to 15 seconds, besides the fact that Team Empire are pretty aggressively pushing in that top lane. Resolution and Aloha Dance are knocking on that tier 3 tower just to see who's going to respond. Are they going to jump in? Yep, they're going to try and grab Hao and take him out, but a really good silence placed out from Super and managed to force the rest of the team back. Now Resolution caught by that Winter's Curse will be able to get the kill there. Always want to fly the next target. Shallow Grave and a TP out. Nope, swap is there from Fenrir, and Always Want to Fly will join Resolution in the grave. So their first real attempt at being very aggressive on Vici Gaming turns very poor.
Yeah, they overcommitted by that tier 3 tower. They had to have known that most of Vici Gaming was going to be behind there, and that Winter's Curse is so effective against the Storm Spirit, and they just overcommitted for that a little bit too much. I think the plan was to have the Spirit Breaker run in at the same time as the Orchid completes to do maximum damage on the Queen of Pain and blow her up. But he was just a little bit too far behind, and once he noticed the Queen of Pain was about to BKB, Yoki churns tail, tries to run away, but at that point Empire had committed a little bit too much for that.
And now Vici Gaming with a very strong Roche-taking lineup between the Blood Rage of the Bloodseeker being put on Roshan, as well as the minus armor of the Vengeful Spirit, plus the increased damage of Vengeance Aura. They will be able to get the Aegis into the hands of us. Nope, they actually give it to Hao again, so.
I think they're always going to give it to Hao.
Okay.
He's only got 1200 HP. Even with the BKB, if you look at his charges, he only has 7, and Super should have 10.
Yeah.
Because he just recently picked it up, and so...
I guess I just figured between the magic immunity of BKB plus the fact that he's almost got an Assault Cuirass, like he's got the big armor item of Plate Mail, maybe that's enough tankiness. Even though he doesn't have HP, he's got a lot of mitigation, that it could be enough, but...
No, because the Storm just rolls past him, and then if you get hit by one Sleight of Fist, you pretty much die. And so I think it's a really good idea to continue to give it to Hao, especially with how... with how aggressively he's playing in. Like, he's blinking in pretty far to try to create an opening for his team. And you can't really get that out of the Bloodseeker. On this smoke is actually going to do a lot. They actually see him with the ward here, too. This is so smartly placed by them. Yoki just has to run.
Oh, he popped the active there and is actually staying one step ahead of Vici Gaming. Super's trying to get a Rage of the Rupture, but at this point, he's getting close to the tier 2 tower. It's too late. If they really want this, they're going to have to force a fight around a tier 2 tower. That's just not going to happen. So Yoki, he just TPs away, and immediately the rest of Vici Gaming back themselves up. Bottom lane, Silent continues to push forward. He almost has a Battle Fury.
That was the good part of them showing themselves at top, because it means that Silent can continue to pressure this without feeling too worried. But that was just sick game sense by Yoki.
There really
was not a whole lot to tip him off from that. There's not even a single ward by them there. He just kind of read the situation, because it's not even that he ran away. It's that he empowering hasted and didn't go for the TP or anything.
There's that Assault Cuirass for Queen of Pain. Presumably you continue the right-click build for a Quap now. What is the next item as a Queen of Pain that's trying to look towards more physical damage from her right-clicks? Where do you go from here? Scythe of Ice?
Yeah, I think you still go for the Hex. You absolutely need it against the majority of the cores on Empire. Now that there is a Manta style on this Ember Spirit, you want a more reliable way of locking him down other than your Orchid, because the Storm Spirit's going to go for a BKB of his own, right? And Silent's actually not going to have a BKB for quite some time. And you're going to have to use the Winter's Curse on either the Spirit Breaker or the Storm Spirit. And so you have no reliable lockdown against an Ember Spirit, so it has to be the Hex.
Why do you think you don't reverse the item choices there and go for maybe even get like the Plate Mail and then go for the Scythe of Ice and finish up the AC afterwards, instead of finishing the complete AC first and then going for the disable item later? Because the Scythe of Ice seems to be such a critical item for Vici Gaming to stop both the Storm and Ember from doing whatever they want in team fights.
It's just good at fighting against physical damage. It serves that purpose, because if you think about it, there's the Spirit Breaker on the other team. You can negate a lot of his right-click damage. Same with the Storm. You just help your team so much because of the armor aura. At the same time, it's good against the Sleight of Fist, especially. And if you're having trouble taking high ground or you're having trouble hitting towers, then it's especially effective.
Yeah, and if you look at the way the Vici Gaming are set up for a 5-man team fight, they've not only got the armor now of Assault Cuirass, but they also have the armor of Mech slash Guardian Greaves, which as your hero drops low enough, they get a big increase in armor up to an increase of 10 once they drop below 20%. So
Vici
the melee racks, that swap in. They're going to go for Yoki and do successfully blow him up with the Sonic Wave, and he does not have a buyback. It seems really good ultimate there from Aloha Dance as they target Ice Ice Ice, but now Resolution is hit by that Winter's Curse. Great Shallow Grave, though, is going to keep Resolution alive, and back to the fountain he goes, where he'll heal up and come back once again for vengeance. And the melee racks is about to fall. Vici Gaming, though, can't stick around for too long. The buyback out from the Disruptor is going to look for a glimpse pickoff, but they need vision first, and it just hits nighttime as well. Silent is desperate to be able to see someone, and he's seen how. They'll bring him right back in. He does have that Aegis, makes the blink away. Super is the next target of Resolution, who has just enough mana to be able to make a pull, and Super will end up falling here. Great pickoff for the buyback of the Disruptor. Doesn't look like they're going to get anything more, though.
Yeah, they managed to hold the melee barracks, which is the more important one. It might actually go down. It's so low.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? It's got 75 HP, regenning
They're
up
running
over time.
They're running as fast as they can.
It's fine, it's fine. The creeps will take out the siege wagon, and the melee racks will survive. So it'll regen back up to full given enough time.
How upset do you think they would have been if they lost their racks like that?
Incredibly.
After that defense, they held for so long, and then it's one single catapult that ruins their dreams. But managing to hold on to that racks, even after the Aegis once again, just kind of, it has to bolster Empire's confidence. And at the same time, the Storm didn't even die in the middle of the Winter's Curse because Always Wanna Fly had such a clutch grave. Like, he might have missed a few in the early game, but that makes up for all of them. And at the same time, How might be the target. They have a DD rune. They know he's there. He's smoked up at the same time, and they might try to look for a quick pickoff, and Resolution's going to miss.
FY already blinked himself back. So it seems the smoke is a missed opportunity here. Vici Gaming are going to back up and do a smoke of their own. Fenrir funneling it out to them on the courier right now.
Yeah, they should be really worried about this right now because Empire is actually in the losing position because you don't want to be caught out here by the smoke. It's almost certainly going to mean at least one set of racks. Oh, and I don't actually think they know this is coming, and this might actually just surprise them as...
Hot Dance is still in a good position to be able to respond to this one. If he gets off a good ultimate, BKB activated on both the Intelligence. They do get the ultimate off on Resolution, and with the Winter's Curse, but the Shallow Grave is there. He's going to be able to roll himself out of that one, but the Bloodseeker is still plenty fast thanks to all that missing HP, so he's going to be able to run down a couple of heroes. First is Always Wanna Fly. Next up, Silent on his list. He only needs 1 or 2 right clicks, and yeah, he pops the BKB just to make sure that Chains doesn't delay the death of the Ember Spirit. 2 kills for that smoke, and Vici Gaming will now be able to take that melee racks, which survived for so long, but in the end, it falls to Vici Gaming.
It's definitely going to go down, and you're just seeing the Ember Spirit being so far behind in farm. He can't actually provide too much to the fight. Resolution can go in all he wants, but he's going to get stopped dead in his tracks by the Winter's Curse every time. And they just can't really put out enough damage, especially with How having this Assault Curse. And here we go.
Ice. That's a glimpse back. Now FY comes in with the Cold Embrace. The rest of Vici Gaming seems like they want to fight this one. It's going to be a 3 versus 5. They already got the Disruptor thanks to How and his Orchid plus Blood Rage damage. So not so good an idea for Empire to challenge. Now a swap out. Yoki's going to be caught as well. Silent stunned up, and bad turns to worse. Empire are very fortunate that they're in a situation where Vici Gaming can't actually take a second lane of racks because they have both of their tier 2s up in the side lanes. But that was still disastrous, feeding more kills to Vici.
I'm actually going to go for that semi-defense and show themselves on the map because they know that Vici Gaming clearly knows that the Ember Spirit is down, and with Winter's Curse about to be up, the Storm Spirit doesn't want to get into a direct 3v5 type of fight. So I think the better move there is just to wait for the Ember Spirit, give up your racks, and try not to lose any more casualties, and try to mount another defense, and hopefully rack up more Bloodstone charges, get a little bit more farm on the Ember Spirit. But now with those deaths that just happened, you know that Empire are almost entirely going to be really poor, and even if they hold in this situation, they're probably going to need buybacks for it, and it's going to cost too much because Silent, that would kill his farm progression. He just wouldn't have any more farm.
So as they push forward, the Disruptor comes back. This time around, Vici Gaming will make a very early exit in order to ensure nobody gets picked off. They start marching over to Roshan. Potential spawn time right now, the actual spawn time, 20 seconds. Rather lucky for Vici Gaming, I think, though all of Empire is up to contest.
I almost think they have to contest the Roshan now. because they just don't deal enough damage on this Ember Spirit. He manages to pick up a Chrysalis, but that Queen of Pain, instead of going for the Hex, just decided to go for the Daedalus, and I am shocked at how quickly she kills the supports on Empire. I think she got a 3-shot onto the Disruptor. The Dazzle is even weaker than the Disruptor is. He does have a Solar Crest, but I don't really think that matters when you only have 948 HP to back yourself up, and
Poor Roshan, dear God.
he dies so quickly.
Holy cow.
Imagine that's the Disruptor now.
Aegis for How, Cheese for Super, who's about to finish up a Butterfly as well.
That is an insane amount of farm right now. They don't have an MKB. They're nowhere near it. Your Ember Spirit is just so far behind, and this might have been one of the games where I've seen Silent pressured the most. Like I'm used to seeing him go 10-0, have a ridiculous amount of farm, but Vici Gaming have just done such a good job of shutting down the cores of Empire this entire game.
And now, even more armor aura with the Vlads coming in on the Courier. Vici Gaming well set up to win this last team fight to end all team fights, conceivably. Very few comebacks when 2 racks are down, but Empire, they're trying to even things out. They're already trying to push up that top lane. Tier 3 tower, though, being threatened by How between the Blood Rage and the Assault Cuirass. His right clicks are something fearsome. There's that Butterfly, as well as the Vlads. Vici Gaming now ready to commit to the push uphill.
You can't really sacrifice 2 racks if you're here as Empire, because you'll just lose too much map control and they'll go for the smoke. So I really feel like this has to work for them right now, because there's not a whole lot of farm progression that's coming in.
Oh, Storm Spirit jumping in on the back. BKB already activated. He really needs to get FY, but there goes the Glimmer Cape Resolution. Still sees a little bit of him. He's going to be able to knock him back with Yoki, and they will almost take him out. No, he gets a Golden Brace. Now a great Sonic Wave from the Queen of Pain. They will be able to finish off FY in the end, but oh, the heroes are going to get cleaned up on the side of Empire in exchange for that one support. Now, as they jump forward, Always One Fly is going to be the next target. Shalgrave and TP out. Resolution, his second life. He comes back, goes straight for Super, but has to jump himself away as he drops too low. And Vici Gaming have enough sustain to now be able to focus on that melee rack. Silent Orchid it up, needs some help. That comes from Resolution. Finishes off the Queen of Pain's Aegis. Super, though, will get that range racks. How backs himself up with the Blink, and Team Empire. Second lane of racks down. Team Empire going to be struggling heavily. It's 43 minutes in, a 15,000 gold lead for Vici Gaming. They wanted to just make this a clean 1-1 against Vici Gaming, probably one of the tougher teams in their group, but as time goes on, that doesn't seem to be possible.
It's just insane how long it takes for them to even get the Winter Wyvern down. They had to fully commit 3 heroes in that pursuit, a full BKB timer, the Ember Spirit's life, and they still barely killed FY. His positioning this game has been so good. He's just waiting behind his teammates, willing to back people up. He's not even really relying on the Winter's Curse anymore. Like, just him being alive scares Resolution so much.
I mean, the first thing that FY did was a quick blink backwards that actually stalled up Resolution's damage so heavily and played a very key part in the Winter Wyvern surviving as long as he did. Now, How? He's going to be forced into a BKB here. Yoki still has his ultimate. If they get enough bashes, maybe they can kill How, but never mind. Yoki just gets cleaned up nice and fast, swap out, plus the Cold Embrace is there. How double saved by his allies, and Team Empire drop another 2 cores. Aloha Dance trying to get himself out, but he's going to be run down pretty quickly. Pops the smoke, but FY's there with the blink, and that'll be a 3rd death for Team Empire.
Yeah, Aloha Dance is making a valiant effort to try to get out of here, but every single hero on Empire on Vici Gaming right now is in hot pursuit, trying to keep himself away.
Oh my God!
No, he got crit.
That was close. So Vici Gaming, I mean, that's actually really good for them, right? They managed to stall up the Disruptor's death so long that by the time they get through this Tier 2 and Tier 3 tower, Disruptor's still not going to be up.
Yeah, he doesn't even have buyback for this fight. He tried to go all in to try to get the Aghanim Scepter, and maybe that item actually would have changed their fortunes. Like, if he could have gotten it off before How was able to get his BKB, before FY gets his Glimmer Cape off, then maybe you would have seen some form of a comeback, but as it stands, Vici Gaming, their farm lead is just too much. Like, Ember Spirit is a core that is meant to be behind early, but not by this amount.
So, Mega Creeps, it seems like Team Empire going to be losing this game to with a whimper and not a bang. Empires, I guess, are just going to try and battle it out against Mega Creeps. I mean, it's TI after all. If
There's no
there's
reason
even
for
the
them not to.
slimmest chance of being able to come back, they'll go for it. They've got an Ember Spirit after all, but he still needs a ton more farm to be able to deal with Megas.
Today has been the I don't want to say throws. I think that's a bad term. It's been the day of comebacks.
Yep, day of crazy comebacks to be sure. Silent almost gets caught out. Oh, that is the combination right there. Rupture into a swap. That was like the 950 range swap that practically kills the Dazzle straight up. And now Vici Gaming, I love this spacing from them. They are not taking any chances when it comes to ending this game. They put Hao in the front lines and leave the rest of the team sitting farther back, well spaced to make sure that Empire don't get some sort of opportunity to initiate.
He got Houdini'd. I saw him and then I didn't. And Resolution's going to be the target now.
Yeah, he gets blown up by the Sonic Wave now. A Winter's Curse placed on Aloha Dance. And finally, there it is. Empire will call it. Game number 2 goes to Vici Gaming.
Yeah, and I really felt like Empire could have done this, but there were so many errors in that bottom lane, especially where they just couldn't really contest anything. And even with the overall decent mid game that they had with the timings, it just all fell apart so quickly.
So we see some of the essentials there for Team Empire to challenge some of the stronger teams here at TI, but they got to get their act together. Right?
They really do.
They just dropped, too many mistakes here in both Game 1 and Game number 2 to compete with the best. So this is their first series of TI. I'm sure they'll be looking better as the group stages go on. In fact, we have another series. It's going to be Team Empire versus eHome coming up next. But first, we toss to the analyst desk to talk about this game.
All right. The score was, what was the score, Syndrome? Oh, right. 2-0. 2-0 in the last match. Vici taking the game. I do have some actual legitimate questions for you, though, in a second.
Okay, let's see if I'll answer them. We'll find out.
All right. So Vici Gaming taking that win. Now, Cap was mentioning that a little bit, too, at the end there. Empire, a lot of people have hopes for Reason for Empire at TI5, but it looks like they were drawing too many mistakes. They do have another match today to prove that they can get back into it. Where do you think these flaws are coming out from for Empire?
It's like